Hey everybody, welcome to Houston. We have a problem. It's a Friday night show. I know it's after dark, but it's still technically late where I am, so give it an hour. I think sunset's at 6:30. Yeah, end of the week. So we're gonna be doing Friday evening shows from now on because I teach math during the daytime and can't really do the whole video thing. So today was the first day of math class for film students, and I think they enjoyed it. Artists always love coming into a math class where when they ask, "Is this class going to be hard?" I'm like, "No, you're film students. You're not civil engineers." They seem to appreciate that a lot more. I might as well I have a super chat right off the bat from Joey Sullivan. Do you think any banks failed the 1 trillion requirement? Well, considering the weirdness that was happening with Bank of America customers today, maybe. I can think of one bank that may have failed that $1 trillion requirement, and who knows what was going on with Bank of America today. There is weird stuff happening in people's accounts today. So I'm sure we'll get some sort of post-mortem over the weekend, and someone will look into like just exactly what happened. So yeah, all right. What things are we going to talk about? Oh yeah, Bank of America. So Bank of America had weird stuff happening with people's accounts and trying to spend money and use their money, and weren't having access. And Bank of America just kind of like ghosted everybody for the day. This is after Bank of America is announced they're selling $123 billion in bonds, which is about 10 times larger than any single bond offering offered by a bank ever. Mind-boggling. But banks were required to have $1 trillion in capital by today. So big banks. So there's like 36 of them, 35 of them that we're supposed to have all that by today. And Bank of America is just an awful bank. I'm sorry if you're one of their customers. They're garbage. They've been garbage for a long time. My little sister, she was adopted, and she scraped and saved all through high school, working multiple jobs, trying to figure out a way to pay for college. And by the time she graduated, she managed to save $30,000 from babysitting and working as a waitress and all this stuff to help pay for school. And she discovered the Bank of America had taken like 10 grand from her in not meeting minimal requirements for her account. This is a girl who was like 15, and they're taking, hundreds of dollars a week out of her or a month out of her account for not having the minimum balance requirements. The girl had 30 grand in the account. Bank of America's like, "No, you're not getting that money back. That's, you didn't meet those requirements." Who puts a greater than 30 grand minimum balance requirement on a checking account for a 15-year-old? I don't get it. They're a bunch of garbage bankers from the get-go. Yeah, they had some neat commercials during the 2000 Olympics. That's about it. Also, Citadel seems to be continuing their meltdown. Their story's changing a bit about communications with Robinhood. Then it's revealed that one of the members of the board at Robinhood sold off all of his AMC, knowing full well that the buy button was going to go away and the stock price was going to tank. So there's major news outlets now writing about insider trading involved with the Robinhood guys. And all this information was brought to light by people in this movement. So they're out there, they're doing their thing, and they're shining a light on this crime. And these folks are now like bathing in this light. And mainstream media, I think, is starting to be like, maybe it's time to pile on. They know something's weird going on with the economy, and that this stuff might all, come true. I mean, everything we talked about for months and months and months and months about the economy and what could be a giant crash of the economy, they were ignoring us, and they were ignoring us, and they were ignoring us. And now they're like, maybe they're onto something. This is interesting. So they're starting to write about it and pay attention to us in ways that they were just waving us off before, which is exactly what Michael Burry and crew were facing prior to the 2008 financial crisis. Was everyone was ignoring them, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, you folks you might be onto something. And then they were rock stars all of a sudden. So yeah, we're in that the tide ebbs and flows. we're in that slack tide right now where we know it's just going to like whoop, become a low tide real soon. Okay. Let's jump into the chat. Resident Flea says, all the corruption, all of us are sounding like a broken record. You know what I mean? Yeah, we say the same thing day in, day out. Just stay on message, man. Just as long as we're staying on message, people start to go, oh, okay. And they start to see what we are seeing. Okay. I know. I would love, Tamis, I'd love to get to when we launch the NFT platform. Yeah, credit unions are a good way to go. I admit I am terrible. I still bank with Wells Fargo because I haven't had the. Well, I don't have any credit unions around that I can transfer to. They're local, so I have not gotten around to getting that done. I don't know. Bank of America, or not Bank of America, USAA is like, bank with us. I may end up switching to USAA for everything. Problem is that the girls at Wells Fargo are so cute. That's how they get you. You got to go in and cash a check just to make eye contact, and then they like to give monkey butt biscuits. And you know, I'm a weak man. Okay. Anyone using DRS, computer share? Lots of people are using computer share. I'm still getting tons of questions about computer share. And if you're going to put stuff in there, Just know that it's not quite easy. I mean, I get folks telling me, oh, I could put a limit order up to $1 million just fine. Yes, but the fine print says in order for them to fulfill that order, you got to write a letter with your intentions, send it to them in the mail. They review it before they'll even process any of those transactions. So you can put a limit order in there for $1 million, and unless you write that letter, they won't do anything about it. It'll just sit there. So, it's not going to be the quick sale. It's not going to be the MOAS is happening. All right, I'm going to set my limit order. I'm going to do this, plonk, and sell. It's going to be, hey, MOAS is happening, and then nothing sells because you never sat down and wrote the letter, verified your information. They do their little check, and then they go, okay. Then they turn on the processing for that order. If MOAS is 15 days long and it can take 3 weeks to sell, $100,000 in securities or more. I'm just sticking in Fidelity, sticking with that, and turned off lending, routed everything through lit exchanges, and that's the best I can do. It took over 2 months for me to get my transfer from Robinhood into Fidelity to work, and I just can't put up with that. I also read last night there's lots of folks on Reddit having problems transferring from, I think it was E-Trade into computer share. That it's been weeks, and E-Trade's like, we can't find any shares. And Get It Got wrote me the other day, and he was talking about how he asked, hey, can you give me the numbers on the shares I own? And they're like, no. We can't do that for you. So he's like, all right. So I think we're in that realm where they're having a hard time finding those shares to be able to put in a computer share, which might be a good thing. I don't know, but I'm like the school of fish. I'll let you guys get eaten by the sharks and wait out on the side. Okay. Oh, my chat, of course, the chat resets. And Mike Barr got it right, Hawaiian shirt. Oh, yeah, there's lawsuits. Citadel is suing the SEC over the IEX, and I just glanced at it. I just saw it pop up that there's a hearing on the 25th about that. Basically, the IEX is a membership-only exchange for these big funds, and is like a dark pool that Citadel doesn't want the competition. So they're like, hey, you can't let other people process transactions. That's our job to put them through our dark pools and process transactions. So Dan Volman, Houston, what is your take on Creature from Jekyll Island? I have never heard of the Creature from Jekyll Island, so I have no take on the Creature from Jekyll Island. Let's see here. Creature from Jekyll Island. Oh, it's a book. I've never read it. I'll have to read it. You can check on a second look at the Federal Reserve. Published in 2010. All right. By G. Edward Griffin. I will have to check that out because I never read it. So, dang, paperback, $45? What? Goodness gracious. Oh, it's an expensive book. For a used paperback? Well, it might be a while until I read that book. So, no, I have not read it yet. I will have to give it a read. Maybe I can get some Cliff Notes up here. I can scan that at least. So, Dan, I don't have any opinion on it because I have not read it. Okay. Oh, yeah, John Cromer. Don't forget to smash the like button. Yeah. Like and subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends. Like and subscribe. I forget to do those things constantly. So, yes, do all that. Hey, Houston, what is your stance on the paranormal looking at it from a scientific brain? How to put this? Okay. Like, there's always discussion of souls. Like, do we have a soul? And I wish I could remember the name of the guy. There's a documentary called The God Who Wasn't There. And there's a gentleman in it. I might have to look up the oops, and I can't type. One sec. Probably came out 2004, maybe 2005. It's an interview, and it might be in the outtakes. Richard Carrier. He's a historian and thinker, and he was asked about this question about souls, and his way of answering made a lot of sense to me. And he was like, why create a soul when you got the cabeza, right? Like, childbirth for women is so painful and so awful because they're trying to push through these bowling balls. And everything we know, feel, experience is congealed in electrical impulses inside this ball of fat in our brain, in our heads. And all of our experiences, everything that caters to human existence is contained up here. And why is childbirth so awful? And why do we pop children out when they're so useless? Like, basically, we kick them out of the womb way too early compared to other animals. You have a foal or an elephant or any other number of other mammals. They give birth, and those things are walking around, interacting, and they're creatures. Whereas human babies, it's like 40 days until they really start thinking. Aristotle said the child didn't get its soul until the 40th day when it first laughed, which is usually around cognitive development when the child first goes, that's funny. Prior to that, they're just like, and sleeping all the time. So why do we put so much effort as a species into popping out these giant brains to, the detriment of mothers for centuries everywhere, because so many kids were lost during childbirth, so many mothers died during childbirth, just to get these big brains out. And if we're going to deal with souls, and if we're dealing with souls, why would we have, why if everything can be contained inside a soul, what's the point of the brain? So Richard Carrier's take on that, I thought it opened up my eyes to a way of thinking about it in like evolutionary biological standpoint. I've been to lots of scary places. Ghost towns everyone's, the ghosts and ghost towns. I've camped in the cemetery in Pioche, where up on Boot Hill, where like 100 convicted murderers were hung and buried in unmarked graves. Yeah, you just spend night on the stars, enjoy the view, and move on the next day. So I don't have any sense that there's paranormal stuff out there. They make for great stories, but you can watch the ghost hunters shows, and for 20 years they're like, oh, did you hear that? Oh, it's cold in here. There's something. Did you see that? What was that? And they just pan the camera around, and for 20 years they never found anything. So it's kind of telling that if after 20 years of documenting they haven't gotten one ghost on tape after specifically trying to hunt them for that long. So that's my take on paranormal stuff. That's most people's imaginations or misunderstanding natural phenomena. Okay. Anna Rolnick, Houston, I'm kind of tired of buying the dip, but I keep doing it. When MOAS already? Every day we're a day closer. That's all we know. Just from Dax. Super chats. If all the banks go under, where's a good spot to park post MOAS tendies while you figure things out? Are credit unions an option? Also, fire shirt. Yeah, I don't see why credit unions wouldn't be an option. And will all banks go under? I think it depends on which banks are funding margins for whom. So, I mean, I think a lot of them are going to be facing troubles. I think that's why JP Morgan pulled out of the DTCC and its subsidiaries, because they're like, yeah, we don't want any of the liability you guys are dealing with. They may have enough of their own problems, but I don't think they want to like compound their problems with everybody else. So they formed their own clearinghouse. Maybe smaller banks that don't necessarily lend to hedge funds might be a good bet also. Local banks. This is different than when all these local banks were jumping on the mortgage-backed securities train, and everybody was like, hey, we can just print money by lending as much as possible and selling these mortgages to each other, and it's going to last forever. Well, these smaller banks don't lend margin to hedge funds, so you don't have to worry about them having that kind of liability. But I don't know if you saw, housing prices have dropped recently. Where was that news? Will the market cool off? Yeah, here's a local one, and let me see if I can get seen. Chrome. Sorry, I forgot to assign my Chrome here. Go there. There we go. Okay. Look, leave me alone, sale times. Just go away. Oh, sorry, it's King 5. Seriously? Go away. So housing prices are like King County, which is been historically for the last decade one of the fastest growing places to buy homes in the country. Basically Silicon Valley, New York, King County, maybe Miami, and we are starting to see home prices cool off. There's a couple of things that might be behind it. In downtown Seattle, between 2014 and 2019, they had built more housing units in downtown Seattle than they had the previous 50 years combined. So all of a sudden, there's like a lot of space, but there was a lot of Amazon people that eventually were filling that stuff up, and then COVID hit, and people were like, I don't want to live in a city during COVID, and they went out to the country. But we're starting to see the growth of prices is what's slowing down. So there were places where prices had gone up like 24%, but now they're only up, 19? I have to begin that one deeper. But, you know, dude, ads. You guys are monsters. Oh, God damn it. Remember to turn that off, Houston. I recently saw people posting, homes for sale in the LA area that were listed for like 1.5 million. The prices changed and they're listing under $1 million all of a sudden. So I think we're starting to see a little cooling off in the housing market as, people are getting foreclosed on and being evicted and realizing, people can't afford to buy houses right now. And there might be some problems with lending if Bank of America is screwing people's money and Wells Fargo is cutting back on access to credit for people. So, yeah. AM7 says that Bank of America couldn't use Zelle today. Yeah, those are not good signs. Especially on the day they're supposed to prove they have $1 trillion in capital to the government. Resident Flea. Question, if half your shares were bought over a year ago and half your shares were not, how does capital gains work? My guess is you might want to talk to a tax attorney or a CPA about this. My guess is if you sell half your shares, they're going to count it as the ones you bought more than a year ago. You're going to go with whichever one probably benefits you. If you sell all your shares, then half of it will be counted towards the lower capital gains and half of it towards the higher capital gains. So, oh yeah, Peter Joy. Yeah, Kilauea is erupting. Never fails. Soon as I leave the Big Island, that stupid volcano's gonna go and just fart out some lava and make an awesome lava lake. I went to school there for 4 years, never got to see a lava lake. I did get to play with some flows, but they were, not the exciting flows where like villages are being destroyed and forests are being mowed down and stuff. And then there were no summit eruptions. I graduate, I leave, the summit has a gigantic eruption. I come back to visit. The lava turns off. There's no lava flowing. I leave, lava turns back on. For 15 years now, every time I go to the Big Island, Kilauea is like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything. And the minute I leave, Kilauea goes freaking nuts. And the opposite happened. I would leave for school and go to Hawaii, and Mount St. Helens would have a summit eruption. I'd miss the whole thing. So I am like King Midas in reverse when it comes to volcanoes. I am an omen. I am the albatross around the neck of volcanologists everywhere. So as long as I live in Seattle, Mount Rainier will never erupt, I think. Just be like, no, you're going to have to go somewhere else for me to do this. Keith Davis, happy birthday, Houston. I work for a company that reclaims gold. I live in York, Pennsylvania. Where in Pennsylvania or Maryland could I look for gold, and how can I get started collecting my own? Love the show. Oh, man. I mean, I would assume basically where there's mountains, where there's gold. And what I mean by that is if we're going to talk about gold creation, let's go there. Let's go to the Google Earth. Doink. And go on, turn on Google Earth. Why is it Google Earth turning on? You some bitch. Why aren't you turning on? There we go. Sorry. So we've got mountain ranges, and Appalachians, they're a very old range, but they're mostly made of seafloor materials. And not much in the way of volcanics. Up in the north, you get some granites. Down south, you might get some granites. But mostly it's limestone and seafloor related materials. And for the most part, when the earth formed and it was a molten goo ball, and we were getting this differentiation where all the heavy materials were floating, were sinking down towards the center, and all the lighter materials were coming up towards the surface. Your silica-rich rocks go to the surface. Your metals sink to the inside to the core. So there's a lot of differentiation that happened, and so there's a lot of metals that basically got differentiated and sunk into the core, and the surface was largely devoid of concentrated metals by the time that that molten lava lake of Earth froze solid and became lithified. So most of our metals, we think, like metals like gold, came from outer space. Every day, there's several tons of dust that rain down on the surface of the Earth, and inside that dust is lots of pieces of metal from iron asteroids, and there's high concentrations of precious metals inside those things compared to everything else. An iron asteroid that's 500 meters across has more platinum inside of it than has ever been mined by humans throughout history. An iron asteroid that's a mile across would have, I don't know, probably $20 trillion in gold alone. So there's lots of precious metal in space, and the Earth is just sweeping that stuff up as it orbits the sun every year. It's just gathering, every time you see a shooting star, it could be little specks of dust and pieces of metal and whatnot. So several tons a day rain down the Earth's surface, and most of the Earth's surface is water, right? We got these big giant oceans, most of it's water, and that gold hits the water and eventually works its way down, and over a long time will sink and find its way into the dust and detritus on the bottom. And then it subducts under continents. So we got here like the Juan de Fuca plate is subducting under the Northwest. We've got the Pacific plate subducting under Alaska. We've got the Pacific plate subducting under Japan and Kamchatka Peninsula and stuff. And as this material gets drawn down underneath the continent, it brings a lot of the detritus from the seafloor down with it. And then as it superheats and turns into magma, a lot of the water gets brought down. And because the water's under pressure, it also superheats. So you have water that's thousands and thousands of degrees. And because it's not under pressure, it can't boil. So it's just really hot liquid. And inside that really hot liquid, a lot of metals will melt. And they will come up through fractures in the earth where there's hot springs and stuff like that. And the earth will fracture and crack open. And all this water, because under pressure and all this rock, will start popping out, and you'll get a hot spring. And as that water's coming up from deep down in the mantle and coming up through the crust, and it gets higher and higher and higher, it starts to cool off because it's not under as much pressure as it was lower down. And there's certain levels where this hot water that's still under pressure might cool off to a temp where, I don't know, silver will condense. So you'll get silver forming on the sides of that fault. Spots where you get copper, spots where you get lead, spots where you get gold, and so on, as it gets cooler and cooler and cooler. Well, silica also melts at those temperatures, so you'll get quartz that will form, and you get quartz veins in a lot of these rocks. And so when you look at quartz veins and you find a big enough vein, you might actually be able to follow it and see where mineralization is happening inside that quartz vein in those mountain ranges. So if we go to the Appalachians, where you are, you're in York, so you're south of Philly, right? And so you're somewhere down here, I believe. Where are you? Somewhere down here. But there's the Poconos, which is part of the mountain range that goes up in the northern part of Pennsylvania. There's York. There's York right there. And so you got the Appalachians come through here, and these mountain ranges formed when the Eastern United States had smacked into the Atlas Mountains in Africa. So about 300 million years ago, 200 million years ago, there was a giant mountain range, and those two continents had met previously, smashed into each other, and made big, tall mountains. And when they make big, tall mountains, there's tons and tons and tons and tons of fractures that happen. And in those faults are where hot water, this deep down near the mantle, can make its way out. So you'll get veins of gold that happen in that area. The first major gold strike in the U.S. was in North Carolina, and I can't remember the name of the town it happened in, but somewhere in North Carolina, a gold nugget that was about the size of someone's head was found and used as a doorstop by a farmer until someone came to visit the farm and was like, dude, that's a giant block of gold, you're rich. So there's a little gold rush that happened in early 1800s, like 1815. I can't remember the name when exactly it was. And then in Georgia, there was the first major gold rush in the U.S. history was in Georgia in the 1830s. And that is when the Trail of Tears happened. So the Cherokee were living up in the Georgia mountains. The U.S. government was like, get out, we want your gold. And so they kicked the Cherokee out, and then the gold rush came in. That's where tons of dudes from like Cornwall and England, miners from Germany and Switzerland all came in this area because they had the expertise. And most of the modern mining practices we know today were actually perfected during this gold rush in the 1830s and 1840s in Georgia. And you can still find gold in the streams up here. And so these mountain ranges, the gold there is 300 plus million years old, and it's still coming out of exposed bedrocks that you'll find in areas along here. Now, I don't know necessarily of streams in particular that you can check for gold that you can go panning for in these areas, but I'm sure there is some. It might not be economical. It might be more like a hobby level of gold. I know there's quite a bit you can get in Maine, a bunch you can get in upstate New York, but it's all private land through here. So it's really hard to get access to a lot of the gold that comes through these areas. It's much easier to go out west where everything is owned by the federal government, and the 1872 mining law allows you to just like climb all over everything and prospect all over the place. Than it is where everything, like all these states were originally giant land grants from the King of England, and they're like, hey, you want, and like the land grants are crazy. It was like Massachusetts extended all the way across the continent until it hit the boundary where the French owned everything. And so lots of states that got made up were actually made up of these land grants for giant states in the beginning. So yeah, but I would, if you got any state parks that might let you go pan, I would look those up and see if there's anything in the mountain ranges out here in Pennsylvania and Maryland. If not, you may either have to head further south or go further north. And that's the best I can do for you. Okay. I think I missed a couple of super chats. Nick Callis, is Be Big gonna blow up? Oh man, I hope so. The last I read last week was that they are like 260% shorted. I mean, I got my shares. They had a whiz pop bang earlier this week, and then it kind of went meh. Let's see where they're at. We got Be Big. Be Big. Man, it's kind of flatlined a little low today, but it's hovering. It's got that. Seems to really have a $6 floor. Doesn't really want to do much below that. But yeah, earlier this week it was over $7. Monday was pretty awesome for them. Yeah. Okay. I mean, Be Big's got some sort of dividend coming on the 15th, right? So they might be timing that sucker perfectly for whatever the market may be doing in response to the debt ceiling negotiations. Okay. Who else is, I missed someone's super chat while I was, if you get me talking about gold, I will talk about gold forever. It's just from Dex. Got that one. And the super chat, Macro Turf. How do we feel about what Charlie was talking about with deposit withdrawal at custodian being what people think DRS is? Is it FUD? Shilly. I got sent the video link and I was going to try and give it a view before I did this show, and I didn't have a chance. I can't give an opinion on what he said about it. I know he's got very strong feelings about DRS, and I'm pretty indifferent. I'm just like, yeah, it's a headache I don't want to deal with. So that's why I'm not bothering with transferring, because transferring last time was such a nightmare. So, he's got other beef with it beyond my view. So I'll have to take a look at that video tonight and get back to everybody as to my opinions on it. I haven't had a chance to view it yet. Just from Dex, also super chats. If humans are wiped out from Earth, what species do you think will evolve to be the dominant, intelligent new masters of this planet? Just humans, or like all apes? Because I think definitely it would be another ape coming up through the line, being dominant. Those opposable thumbs, they go a long way. They can be taught to use tools, and they can teach others to use tools. That's important step along the way. So yeah, I think it's probably another ape. If all apes get wiped out, next creature up, it'd have to be smart. It would have to get the hands going. Like crows are super smart, but they can only manipulate things with their beaks. So they're out. Dolphins are smart, but they're stuck underwater. Border collies are smart, but they don't have the thumbs. Same thing with African gray parrots. Pigs are pretty smart, but it's hard to accomplish things with hooves. It'd probably be a mammal of some kind. I don't know. Probably maybe something in the rodent family would start splitting and evolving and take over if apes get wiped out. Okay. Monkey Wrench Studios. Graham Hancock wrote an amazing book on Göbekli Tepe called The Fingerprints of the Gods. You should read it. Göbekli Tepe. That's the ruins that we were looking at on Google Earth last time. So it's called Fingerprints of the Gods. Fingerprints of the Gods. And the other one was Jekyll Island. Oh man, every day my reading list just gets daunting. So, yeah. All right, cool. I will check that one out. Thank you, Monkey Wrench. Did I miss anybody else super chats? No. So back up into the regular chat week scroll. Alex Glass says the housing market is cooling off in Iceland. Well, Iceland was like ground zero for banking shenanigans in 2008. Man. But Iceland did it the right way. They were like, yeah, well, banks failed. They're done. We can go back to fishing. We will get some more herring, and that'll be fine. And they just ignored it. They're like, whatever. We're not going to bail you out. And everything went fine. It was a couple of years where things were just a little slow, but, Iceland bounced right back. Tourism bounced back. I went and visited Iceland in 2010, went to the Airwaves Music Festival and hung out, and it was lovely. I had a great time. I mean, heck, my hotel was like $35 a night. The car I rented was a gallon of gasoline cost as much as it did to rent the car for a day. It was like $8 a day to rent the car. And I think it was $8 a gallon for gasoline. Yeah, my plane tickets were cheap. I had a great time the last time the economy collapsed and I went to Iceland. It was fantastic. Met a lot of cool musicians and stuff while I was there too. Hi, Houston. What is the short percentage on metamaterials? The short percentage of metamaterials I don't think necessarily calculates torchlight short materials. So let's see here. I got to do that. Sorry, the internet is designed to be slow here. Short interest. Yeah, the short interest reported for metamaterials is only 3.22%. But let's see if they still list torch short interest. Torchlight was last listed at 13% short. That's just prior to the merger. It's the last one I see popping up on here. And that was the week before they started shorting tons of shares during the merger. So my guess is higher than that. And remember, most of that, I'm about to make myself big. Most of that shorting is not done via traditional shorting, which is borrowing those shares. It's just naked shorting. And if you're naked shorting, you're not necessarily reporting that as short interest until you have to borrow shares. And if you're a market maker, you never have to borrow shares. You can just generate those counterfeits all day long. And so they package those equity swaps. So a market maker will short like crazy. Will just short gajillions of shares. They'll package it up into this equity swap, and then a hedge fund will rent the liability of that equity swap. And they will use that, and then the short hedge fund never has to report shorting anything, And the market maker, because they've got got these weird superpowers, they never have to report the short sales. So nothing ever gets reported to S3 or Ortex or FINRA or Fintel or Morningstar or anything else. No one else gets that data until basically someone gets margin called, can't meet their margin requirements, and are liquidated. And then we find out just how screwed they made everything. Super chat from Skillful Thread. What do you think the ticker would be? What do you think the ticker would have to hit for GME to see this as the start of MOAS? 500, 1,000? Also, I wonder what they might pull to stop the selling. Well, let's bring up... Okay, go to Big Scene. I click on that one. I make Google Earth go away. Oh, come on, man. Oh, there we go. All right, so let's do some math. So you're asking if it's 500 or 1,000. Okay, so we know there's 70 million and change shares that should exist for GameStop. The statistical data we have suggests it's well over 500 million, perhaps over 1 billion, perhaps over several billion. So let's just use round numbers. We'll use 1 billion shares that have been short sold. So we got 1 billion shares that have been short sold. Right now, at a price which is, what was it today? 180, 175? What did it close at? It closed at 176. So it closed at, I did multiplication? I did. At $176, which means there's $176 billion in liability for the shorts out there. Now, if we use 1 billion, we have a $500 limit, that's $500 billion in liability. If we go to 1,000, that's $1 trillion in liability, right? No one has $1 trillion to make up for that, and that's just GameStop. That does not count any of the other stocks they've shorted, which will also explode upon MOAS. So if they have 1 billion naked shares they generated, the price gets to $1 trillion, the true market cap, as I like to call it, gets to $1 trillion as a result of price action. There isn't a hedge fund alive that can survive a margin call on that. There's no way they can get that kind of cash or liquidity to make up for it. The billionaires who are members of their hedge funds, they don't have that kind of money. They might be billionaires, but they're not trillionaires. they're not going to be able to be like, oh, I'll cut you a check, get you guys out of this jam, just make sure I get my money back. They're not going to be able to do that. And if it happens while the debt ceiling crisis is going on, and the value of the bonds, their assets under management shrink, then their margins could be 50 or 100 times or more whatever the assets are that they have under management. And it's not one of those situations where Citadel can go out and try to sell $600 million in bonds so they can give a pile of money to Melvin. Citadel won't meet capital requirements at that point. So they'll probably try to continue naked sell and get as much cash on hand as they can, but I don't see them being able to do that forever, especially if the SEC is looking at their capital requirements and goes, yeah, we're going to have to pull your market maker status, and then they're toast. They're just done. All these short hedge funds don't have their favorite player to back them up anymore. And it's like, I don't know, it'd be like Michael Jordan breaking a femur during Game 3 of the NBA playoffs. Bulls will just lose. There's just no way they could beat the Sonics after that, and that's over. So, yeah, that's how I'm looking at it. So if it gets to $500, that's ridiculous. And the banks could be praying that maybe it will go down, but it'll be so much FOMO at that point, it'll just keep going, I think. Big Houston. Okay, got a super chat here from GM. Hey, so be big. I've heard with a merger spinoff that shorts have to either cover or pay dividends. What does this mean for the average dumb ape? It should mean recalls of the stock. And recalls are forced buying. Forced buying means price action, and the price goes up. So the dividend Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's the 15th, and I think it's a crypto dividend of some kind. I don't think it's necessarily a cash dividend. Is that right? Isn't it a crypto dividend that they're doing? I think everybody's jumping on that train. They're like, hey, might as well do an overstock and do these crypto dividends and lighten up that short interest that's bugging us. So, yeah. Fern Marquez, AMC, FTD, what do you think? Yeah, there's a whole bunch listed. GameStop, I think, was at 9 million. Was AMC, FTDs. Let's see what the report has here. Yeah, September is climbing right back up. Oh, let me share my screen. Duh. You guys can't see what I'm doing. Let's actually share the screen. There we go. So we can see January, crazy. End of May, crazy. September, oh my, look at that. Starting to be crazy again. So this is September 13th and the price of $51. The FTDs are going through the roof again. And so we should get the second half of September report here soon. And my guess is that graph will put it right back up here again. So, we have a pretty stable trend of these things resetting. So it's January 26th, June 2nd, and we still don't know where the peak is. Somewhere in here, it's either end of September or beginning of October. But we have a definite, that looks, if I put my mouse right here, you guys can't see my mouse. But imagine a peak just off to the right. How come you can't see my mouse? There it is. Sorry. I had to click on the screen. So imagine where my mouse pointer is. That looks like pretty even across the board, right? So it looks like we might be in a cycle, if that's the case. And depending on what the cycle means, Astro's got one theory, Siren's got another theory. There's something about the 69-day T plus 69 that turns over. So we'll probably see a whole bunch of packaging of debts, or maybe have seen them already in this last week of debt swaps where they bounce these things around. But we'll have to wait on news on what the FTDs are for the end of the month and just how high it went. Josh Pet Pals, Tennessee. Yeah, didn't miss it completely. How the hell is everyone? Quick question. How likely is the trajectory of actual space travel? What would it take for an actual travel out of our system? Okay. With current technology, it takes a lot of slingshotting. And this means you have a gravity well like the moon. So you fire a rocket towards the moon and you fire it off at an angle so it gets caught by the moon, accelerated on the moon, and then is accelerated away from the moon and shoots off. So then it leaves the moon's sphere of influence and heads towards Mars. And you get to Mars and you slingshot around Mars and you head off to Jupiter. And you slingshot around Jupiter and you head off to Saturn. And you slingshot around Saturn and you head off to Uranus or Neptune. And you slingshot around those. And then finally, if you can do enough slingshotting, you can gain enough acceleration around each one of those big planets, and you will get your escape velocity and leave our solar system. So far, only the Voyagers have left our solar system, Voyager 1 and 2. And they did so fairly recently. I think Voyager 2 was 2012. Voyager 2. No, sorry. 2018 is when Voyager 2 left the solar system. So Voyager 1, when did Voyager 1 leave solar system? Voyager 1 was 2012. So Voyager 1 left in 2002. Voyager 2 was 2018. And but it'll still take like 14,000 years to get to the Oort cloud, which is a trillion light year, a trillion miles away. So it'll still be a while to get there. For the most part, that stuff travels fairly tangentially. When you have a comet, so you've got reoccurring comets. So you have something that gets thrown from the Oort cloud. There was this big sphere of ice balls essentially around our solar system. And a comet will get tossed loose and comes towards our sun. And it can have essentially three pathways. One is it comes, it accelerates towards our sun, And as it accelerates, it's going too fast to get captured, and then spins off in a parabolic or hyperbolic orbit, and then leaves the solar system forever and ever and ever. There's another where it can come and get trapped and stuck into an elliptical orbit. And the third one is it comes and it smacks into something because the planet or the sun gets in the way and just right into it, and that's it. The last time we saw a comet smash into anything was Shoemaker Levy 9, and that was 1993? 94? Oh, goodness. Shoemaker Levy 9. Of course, I misspelled it. 92. And so notice found in 92 and smacked into Jupiter in 94. And so what happened is it shot past Jupiter. Jupiter kind of tugged on a little bit and slowed it down one direction. And so it looped back to do an elliptical orbit around the sun and then smacked back into Jupiter on its way back through. And it when it got close to Jupiter, it broke up into like 23 pieces. So the tidal forces of Jupiter basically stretched it apart, and it broke up into all these pieces. And then Jupiter's orbiting pretty fast. It rotates pretty fast. It rotates like once every 11 hours. So it rotates very fast compared to the Earth. And so this string of shrapnel just, here's a good picture of the bits of it. Basically like machine gun strafed the surface of Jupiter. And the collisions made holes on the surface of Jupiter that were larger than the Earth. Just these single comets like went through the Jupiter atmosphere and just whoomp, made these huge giant holes in the surface of it. So you can see like boom, 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 hit it 23 times on its way in and absolutely destroyed that thing. And we see this happen with smaller bodies. Let me see if I can find a really cool chain of impact craters. I can't remember which moon it's on. Oh, here we go. Which one's this? There's a good one. Chain crater. So here's one that's like, which moon is that from? I cannot remember. Is it our, dude, yeah, whatever. Of course there's no picture, even though, you jerks. Impact crater chain. Tell me which moon you're on, because I can't remember. Here's one. This is one on the moon. So this is something that broke up and then went and just like slapped into the surface of the moon that way. I think there's some on Mercury, and what's this one on? That's that same paper, not telling me exactly. Yeah. So here's crisscrossing. So lots of pieces that break up from tidal forces, and then they machine gun strafe the surface of these moons. But how did I get talking about this? Oh yeah, what would it take to actually travel out of our system? Right now we got to use these gravitational wells to slingshot objects out of our solar system, because it's going to take way too much fuel to continue to accelerate to leave. And basically we get to a point where we get the speed fast enough and we just coast. And that's what we do. We coast to the comet at a set speed. Because there's no acceleration involved, everyone is under microgravity. So they're just floating around, and there's no sense of normal force. So they float around, and then all their bones atrophy and their eyeballs bulge out of their heads, and they get weird spinal problems and bone density loss and whatnot. But there's lots of work being done on theoretical engines that can perhaps propel and continue to accelerate things. Ideally, you'd want to accelerate at 1G. So you accelerate continuously at 9.8 meters per second, so that anyone in the ship will feel like they're under normal gravity, and they won't have to worry about problems with health issues due to microgravity. And then you just, you fly towards Mars or something at 1G, and halfway through you flip around and decelerate at 1G until you get to Mars. And if you have enough fuel, you can do that trip in 3 days at that acceleration. So rather than taking 6 months or a year to get to Mars, you can do it in 3 days. But it's a lot of fuel, and we don't have the way of getting that into space yet. So it's another thing that helium-3 from the moon might be able to help us with, is developing future engines, future tech that we can travel beyond our cosmos because we've got lots of fuel. And then there's really cool scramjets where if you get accelerating fast enough, there's basically time dilation that happens in space where you've got these particles, these little hydrogen atoms and stuff that just happen to be floating around in the vacuum, just pong, there's pong. And if you're traveling at thousands of miles an hour, you don't really notice those lonely little hydrogen atoms. But if you're traveling at thousands of miles a second, all of a sudden you can scoop up a whole bunch of that hydrogen and just pack them into a nuclear reactor. And as long as you're traveling and you're gathering up hydrogen, it's awesome. It's kind of like the intakes on the SR-71. So pull these guys up. SR-71. Yep. So these dudes, these were they fly at about 100,000 feet. They fly 3,000 miles an hour, and they'd fly so high and so fast there was nothing that could catch them. And that's so they could fly over Russia and China and take pictures of whatever they wanted, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. But at 100,000 feet, you have to wear a spacesuit because you're effectively in outer space. You might as well be. Your blood can still boil at that altitude. And these intakes, the jet was going so fast that each second they could inhale the equivalent of 100,000 human beings inhaling at once. So these engines could scoop up so much air at that speed because of that dilation due to how fast they were going, that they just happened to smack into so many air particles that could gobble up enough to keep the engines going. So the faster they went, the more air they could get. And it's a ramjet is how that works. And so there's theoretical stuff about future spacecraft that can do this with the very loosely found hydrogen atoms in space. But it's going to be a while until we can finally get to that point where we're playing with things at speed in space. Okay, I yacked way too long and I missed super chats. I know I did. There's Josh Pet Pals. I missed Nick Callis. Nick Callis asks, will the torch shares be forced to be covered, and do those short positions still cost them money while we wait? Depends. If they weren't able to do a debt swap, they had to go out and legitimately borrow shares to replace those FTDs. If they manage to do a debt swap, then it resets and it starts all over again, and they do another debt swap and resets. Or if they're market makers, they don't do anything. So it doesn't cost them a dime. It's only hedge funds who don't have market maker status who have to borrow and pay those borrow fees. Everyone else just swaps those debts around, or they're market makers who can generate naked shares and they never seem to face consequences as a result. So that doesn't cost them a dime. They aren't paying rent to anybody on that stuff. Yeah. Eventually they got to close all those things. And I think that might be GME's goal with their NFT. Is if they just remove their shares from the DTCC computers and go onto a blockchain system, then eventually every single share has to be bought in order for them to remove the legit shares from the market. Because if they remove the 76 million shares from the market and put them into the Loopring network to trade there, and there's still 1 billion people who think they own GameStop that are like in the brokerage accounts, like, hey, why aren't my GameStop shares over on Loopring? Why are they still with Fidelity or Ameritrade or whatever? Then there's shenanigans, and they have to close those positions. That will force lots of forced buying, because brokerages will be like, well, you have to replace these things with real shares so we can move them over, and they'll start doing forced liquidations of whoever generated those short positions, or whoever owns the IOU. Is that right? No, I would say whoever owes on the IOU. Yeah, and that's, so we're just waiting. We're waiting. Okay, man, you guys asking good questions tonight. I like it when you get me off topic. Get me talking about all sorts of things, bouncing all over the place like a pinball. I love it. Okay. Subhash the boss. What is going on USA? Going on USA produces gasoline. Gas prices are not connected at all to oil prices, man. When we were paying $120 a barrel for gasoline, gas prices weren't this high. We're paying what? 70? What are gas prices right now? Oil prices. Texas sweet crude. Texas sweet crude is of course, there you go. Oilprice.com. Texas sweet crude is $75. So we're a little bit more than half of where we were at our ultimate peak in 2008 when we were paying like $120 per barrel, but gasoline prices are just as high. My guess is price fixing. We've got a fraction of the number of oil companies, and they can collude and enforce higher prices. And local stations don't have as much, local fuel stations don't have as much leeway with the price as they used to, because there's fewer distributors of gasoline in each state. And oftentimes you might have your Exxon and Chevron and Tesco and Phillips 76 or 66 or whatever, and the gasoline comes from the same provider. It's the same refinery. They just stick different names on it. So, yeah, lack of competition, I think, is the main driver in those cases. Natsuka Hirabayashi. Houston, is it true that when you Google pictures of space, they are computer generated? There's no true pictures of deep space. Can you explain this? Yeah. My friend Eli actually worked for the Center for Astronomy at Harvard doing exactly that. Let's bring up some cool pictures of space. We will go, let's do Chandra X-ray telescope images. Okay, so these are Chandra X-ray telescope images, and they are super beautiful, right? This is a planet. This is planetary nebula. This is a planetary nebula, and this one should be, yeah. This is a supernova remnant. So the Chandra-Sakar telescope is a photomultiplier that looks at things at X-ray. And on the Earth's surface, we cannot see X-ray from space. Our atmosphere blocks that light from us, and thank goodness it does, because it would strip our DNA and we would just be cancer balls. So thank you, atmosphere. But so the Chandra-Sakar telescope exists up in outer space. It can only exist as an outer space telescope because you cannot view X-rays from the Earth's surface. So it takes pictures of these things in X-ray, but we can't see X-rays. Our eyes cannot interpret this data. So what they do is they've got the wavelengths of X-ray they're looking at, and they assign colors to the X-ray. And because X-rays are high energy, they usually Photoshop these images to be kind of blue-purple, because that's on the Roy G. Biv scale. Those are higher energy colors. So they'll make all these pictures, different variations of like blue to purple in some cases. And that's what we see when we look at the Chandra-Sakar telescopes. Now, we might have like UKIRT images. So the UK Infrared Telescope is an infrared telescope on Mauna Kea, and of course, it's just pictures of UKIRT itself. UKIRT, let's do Orion Nebula, because someone must have done something with UKIRT and Orion Nebula. Here we go. So UKIRT is the UK Infrared Telescope, and this Hubble. This better not be Hubble. I think it's UKIRT. Yeah. So this is all done in infrared. And so they make the color hues much more red for our eyes. And it's all done in Photoshop. Like, we can't see infrared, so we would never actually see this with our eyes. What we see in visible light is absolutely garbage. So let's do layers of Orion Nebula UV visible infrared. Let's see here. So usually I've got good ones I can put up here. Okay, so here we go. This is what we see of the Orion Nebula. So there's shoulders. That's Betelgeuse. That's the biggest star we can see. We can see it with our telescopes as a big circle. There's the belt. There's his sword sheath. And the various knees. Okay, this is what you see in infrared. So you take an infrared image, like that's creatures that can see in the infrared. When they look up at the night sky, they see something completely different than what we see. So the predator looking out in the night sky would see this, whereas weak little humans only get this little narrow band of visible light. And so we will take images and we will combine visible light with infrared, with ultraviolet, with X-ray, and we will layer them on top of each other, kind of spread out the wavelengths according to color, and or assigning color to them, and then get ourselves like something beautiful as a result. Like if you show this picture of Orion to members of Congress to get funding for your telescope, they're gonna go, I don't want to watch that. I can do that in my backyard. But if you show them this, they go, whoa. So what's happening here is there's a whole bunch of gas and dust in Orion, and it's blocking light from a whole bunch of stars that happen to be like basically behind these stars we see. And if you zoom in on the dingle dangle of Orion, which is the stellar nursery where thousands of stars are being born, there's all these clouds of gas that are collapsing on themselves, and they're superheating as they collapse in on themselves, but they're superheating, in the hundreds of degrees that don't necessarily give off light so that our eyes see it. But if you look at it infrared, you can see it's just looks like a total hot zone where all these stars are forming. But the light of the stars inside these clouds cannot escape, so we don't quite see it in visible light. So here's one. This is a planetary nebula. Which nebula is this? I don't know. But there it is in visible light, and there it is in, this might be radio. Is that radio? It looks like a radio telescope image. So here's a whole bunch of different views of that looks like microwave. That looks like maybe infrared. That's definitely infrared. And you can see like how these things all look different according to what you're taking pictures with them. So basically everything you see, like here we go. These are the pillars of creation. This is the Horsehead Nebula. These might be Hubble images. Hubble is visible in infrared light, so they'll combine the images from those two wavelengths so you can see beautiful things like this, but it's all cleaned up. The instruments, the CCDs they use are really, really sensitive. And so what they do to clean them up is they'll do what are called dark fields and light fields. And so when these telescopes, let's go back, let's do Gemini North. Images. So this is the Gemini telescope up on Mauna Kea, built in the late 90s. It's pretty big. It's 10 meters across the mirror, so 30 feet. In this dome, they keep the dome there to regulate the temperature because they don't want too much of a temperature gradient happening between the sky and the instruments. They want the instrument to be too warm or too cold, so they try to keep the instrument at whatever temperature the night sky will be that evening. So they keep the dome closed, and then they open it up towards sunset, and they get the air to equalize, and they start doing light fields and dark fields. So they'll basically put a lens cap on top of the CCD, the computer chip that takes the image, and they take 10 pictures of it when it's pitch black, and then they point it at something really, really bright. They'll probably shine a light on the wall of this dome. It might be a big white field. And they'll take 10 pictures of just a white field. And when they take their images of the space that night, they will literally, in a photo program, they will line up the image they have, and then they'll subtract the dark field and subtract the light field in case there's any errors in the computer chips. So you might have a couple of pixels here and there that are bad. You don't want that stuff affecting your overall image. So they delete all the noise that might happen with these images. The computer programs are getting better and better at this stuff. So they'll do images will point at a star, track it across the sky for 10, 15 minutes, and they might do that for 3 or 4 nights, and then they'll combine those images on top of each other and add up all the photons that hit that chip, and then they'll delete all the error fuzz data, the noise that can form as a result. And so every image you see of space is totally touched by a computer and cleaned up and improved and given false colors and made really pretty. And the highest paid people at an observatory will be the Photoshop editors that make the images gorgeous for everybody. Because the scientists don't get any money unless they produce pretty like posters and calendars for Congress people to have on their walls. And that is, so yeah, you're right, Natsuka. None of those pictures are what your eyes would see at all. Okay. Okay, that's Marquez. That's Pet Pals. That's Nick Callis. There is... Oh, goodness. I started talking a lot. Equinox MVZ. Hi, Wade. Do you have a favorite movie? Also, did you ever watch Scarface and The Godfather? If so, what are your opinions, thoughts of them? Oh, yeah. I watched Scarface and Godfather. I enjoy them both. I think The Godfather was better. Scarface a little more gritty, and a little more felt more abridged. Like Tony's rise from Cuban immigrant to drug kingpin was like montaged a bit too much, so it didn't feel much. I don't know. Sorry, I got someone sending me a message here. Okay. Sorry, sending someone a message. So I don't think Tony Montana's rise from fresh immigrant to drug kingpin felt like, I don't know, as established as I don't think I was as rooted in his character as, watching the Corleone family progress over time. My favorite movie, man, I love The Matrix. I love Fury Road, action movie wise. I really liked Bulworth. I thought Bulworth was brilliant. What else? JCVD. I don't know if you ever saw JCVD. Jean-Claude Van Damme, the movie. Holy crap! I did not see that coming. Don't watch it dubbed over. You want to watch it with the French subtitles if you have to, because Jean-Claude Van Damme speaking French is actually amazing. But JCVD, I watched that movie and it's all I could think about for like 6 weeks. Like at all times, my brain was just like dissecting that movie. Every single solitary scene was almost perfection. It is an amazing movie, but do not watch the dubbed version. Don't, because the dubbed voices just ruin all the emotion. And there's this like 9-minute monologue that Jean-Claude Van Damme gives while he's like on this elevator and strapped to a chair and he's being held hostage. And it's one of the most beautiful monologues I have ever witnessed anyone give in any capacity. It is absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend JCVD. Came out in like 2007 and it was a low budget art house film. And it's loosely about Jean-Claude Van Damme, and about like him at one time being the largest action star in the world, and then all of a sudden being stuck in this like straight to DVD, crappy movie roles, and his agents suck, and the movies suck because they keep paying Jean-Claude Van Damme too much money, and there's enough money left over to like make the movie good, and Jean-Claude's like, pay me less, make the movie good. And his agents are like, no, because then we get less money. We don't care what the movie's like. We want our money. And so there's like this battle between them, and he has to go back to Belgium for some reason, and I can't remember exactly what, but he ends up accidentally getting stuck in a holdup of a post office and being held hostage. And while being held up there, and he's got to reveal these truths about himself and whatnot. But it's a JCVD it should have won Academy Awards. Jean-Claude Van Damme should have won Best Actor for a foreign film in that movie. That movie was so brilliant. Holy moly. I might put that as number 1 on my list. It is gorgeous. And I keep trying to show it to my roommate, and I can't find a version that isn't dubbed, and it's at least a streaming version. So I'm gonna have to go out and like buy the DVD somewhere just so he can finally see a version that isn't dubbed. Okay. Bull-ish. Hey, Houston, enjoying all the knowledge. I have a son your age that I've been super chatting for years and have yet to learn anything from. That's a good way of putting it. Josh Pepales, can you tell me anything about my favorite constellation, the Pleiades? Thank you very much. Of course. Pleiades are an open cluster. Of course, I spell it wrong. Pleiades. There we go. Scene. So, look up in the night sky in the northern hemisphere. You'll see a little grouping of stars, and if you can find a big zoomed out version, so you might see a little grouping of stars. It'll be teeny tiny. It's kind of this little smear of stars if you got terrible vision like I do. And also known as the Seven Sisters, in Japanese, Subaru. So if you look at the Subaru car, the emblem at the front of the car will be the Pleiades. And the Japanese National Telescope is also called the Pleiades. So this is an open cluster. It's about 80 million years old. And you can still see, if you get a nice magnified image, there's still a bunch of gas and dust inside this cluster. It's what's called an open cluster, which means the gas that form this cluster all condensed and made individual stars, but the stars have their own trajectories and they'll eventually wander away from each other and drift away. And over time, they won't see their neighbors anymore. Like our sun formed 4.5 billion years ago. We have no idea what other stars in the sky formed with us because we formed an open cluster and we just drifted away from there. The stars you do see are fairly hot. These are big stars that die young. So you'll start to see probably supernova explosions as some of these stars either have already died and exploded, or these ones here give up the ghost. So you can see I don't know if you can see very well on your screen, but there's like curved striations for some of these guys. And these are probably remnants of supernova explosions. There may have been something that exploded over here and disappeared a long time ago, and its shock wave blew outwards and compressed that gas in waves. It may have had one that exploded and compressed the gas this way. So that's what you have in the Pleiades. And you've got to really have a powerful telescope to start to resolve the smaller stars that will live a lot longer. They really get washed out by these big young stars that are in here. And if you have, so this is an open cluster, and then there's globular clusters, which are gravitationally bound star systems. And these all formed at the same time, but they formed in such a dense cloud that they may even have a black hole at the center, like a little mini galaxy. And the stars are all gravitationally bound to each other, so they'll never drift away from each other. They're stuck in this mass of tens of thousands, sometimes millions of stars, just orbiting the common center of gravity. And they look like kind of like spider eggs to me. And all the stars in these systems, these all formed kind of when the galaxy formed, billions and billions and billions of years, 13 billion years ago. And all the stars left in here are nothing but old stars. So you're seeing thousands and thousands of old stars, and there's no bright hot ones, because bright hot ones don't live that long. They'll live, millions of years at most, not billions. And so all the middle-aged stars are starting to die, and then billions of years from now, there'll be nothing left but tiny little. Oops, I didn't mean to click on that. Tiny little red stars. Come on. And then bigger versions of these guys are elliptical galaxies. So elliptical galaxies, those are not elliptical galaxies. Show me a good elliptical, here we go. So this is a big giant elliptical galaxy, which is essentially one of those globular clusters, but on steroids. So there might be, I don't know, 1 trillion stars inside that elliptical galaxy, and there's no gas and dust whatsoever. There's gas and dust is gone. No new stars are forming, nothing but old stars. That's why it's kind of yellow-orange. Whereas if you have spiral galaxies like the Milky Way, where there's still lots of gas and dust, you get lots of hues of white and blue where new stars are forming. And so those elliptical galaxies just come up as these yellow kind of football shaped things. And a theory for why all the gas and dust is gone is it may have been multiple spiral galaxies that collided, and their black holes collided, became superactive, and became so hot they blew all the gas and dust away, leaving behind just the stars. So essentially, it'd be like the core of a spiral galaxy like the Milky Way getting so hot it blows the gas and dust of the rest of the galaxy out and away and gone. And so it just clears the lanes. And if we see, oh goodness, what's the term for them? Active galaxies, dumbbells. I can't remember my brain is not remembering the terms right now. So that's not at all what I want. What's the stupid galaxies called? Technically they're quasars, but they weren't called quasars because we saw them from different angles. Radio galaxies. Dang it! There we go. Why my brain not come up with that? So radio galaxies, we look at them in radio waves, and they'll be basically a galaxy where the black hole is going knucking futs, absolutely bonkers in the middle. Remember, this radio galaxy at the center of this image is 10 times the size of the Milky Way, our own galaxy. So you can imagine just how huge these plumes are that are shooting out of the magnetic fields of the black hole, the active black hole in the center of this thing. And it's just blasting all the dust in that entire galaxy out like a fire hose on either end. That's, we're talking tens of millions of light years across is that dumbbell structure. And so this is the active galaxy just actively just blowing all the dust away because the black hole in the center is just gobbling up so much material that's like a garbage disposal you didn't cover. You're just stuff shooting out of it while a whole bunch is still going down the drain. And so it's sucking up all the dust or blowing it all away, one or the other. We get some of them that leave cool like little trails of wake. So the galaxy itself might be moving at fast rates of speed across the galaxy and then leaving behind these barbells of material. And a lot of what folks might consider dark matter is probably the waste left behind by these galaxies floating in space. And it's just so cold that we can't see it. So there's no change of the ionization levels of the gas inside of these things. Yeah, they're pretty awesome. And this is how we get supermassive black holes in the centers of these elliptical galaxies. We have black holes that are like 1 billion solar masses. So, 5 to 10 times the size of the entire Milky Way is a single black hole in the center of one of these big elliptical galaxies. It's crazy. Like, I don't even know what the event horizon would be like on something like that. You could probably pass the event horizon, and there's probably star systems within the event horizon at that point. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Okay, back to Big Houston. I totally missed whose super chat did I miss. I got Josh Pet Pals that answered. I went from Pleiades to radio galaxies. You're welcome. Chakuseki, what will the price of Mayo collapse if Citadel gets liquidated? Also, what's your favorite ancient arthropod? Amylites probably, but only because the ones in Montana and Canada got fossilized and opalized. Opalescent amylites, ammonites, whatever you want to call them. Iridescent. I can never spell the word iridescent. Oops. I totally forgot to make that scene. These guys are awesome. In my treasure hunt that got found, I put a big 700 carat one in there. It was found in Montana. But essentially, they when they fossilized with silica and water and made this opalescence, iridescence to them, and they make these really cool kind of oil slick rainbow patterns on them. And it only happens in the belt range through Montana and Alberta. The other fossils you find elsewhere might be bigger and more badass. Like the ones in Texas can be the size of a dinner table, but they don't have this really cool opalescence to them. These things are awesome. They're really cool. They're gorgeous. They're gorgeous little shells. Those are my favorites. And will the price of mail collapse? Possibly. All right. Monkey Wrench Studios. If we destroy our planet, do you think we could build an ark to move to a different system? Or is the tech we need to accomplish that so far-fetched? I think if we put our resources together, we could do it. But the problem is that the amount of resources it would take to do it would probably equal the amount of resources it would take to just fix our own planet. Which is like, we've got people who want to go to Mars and terraform Mars. Like, why don't we just terraform Earth? Why don't we just do to Earth, which is remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which is what we have to do on Mars to terraform Mars? Like, why don't we just fix the planet we're on, since we're adapted to live on this planet and we're not adapted to live on tiny little Mars, which has terrible gravity, no magnetic field, a weak atmosphere, weak gravity. So we can do it. I'd prefer if we fixed our own planet and then explored from there, rather than trash our planet and then try to find some place that can adequately handle us, or we can, suck it up and be like, fine, I'll live in this Hoth-like planet because it's the only place that can live right now. Okay. Infinita. Is GMGMF the ticker for that crazy battery company? Yes, that's the one that trades on the Toronto Exchange. That's a Graphene Manufacturing Group, which is the company that is based out of University of Queensland that has made the aluminum ion batteries. And that's the ticker for them, yes. Carlos Rayo Cruz, thank you for the super chat and the piece of cake, apparently. Oh, I love some cake right now. Oh man, that'd be awesome. All right, I gotta take a big swig of water. My throat, after teaching all day, my throat is really dry. Okay. Woo. All right, let's try to scroll up and get to the end of the chat here. Sorry if I missed your questions in the chat. We got quite a few super chats making me go long-winded here. Jonathan Deal, Houston, what do you think about the video someone took of AMC price being $4.36? I saw that. There was weird things happening with what stock was it? It was General Electric. So I bought some General Electric just before they did a reverse split, and so they were taking, I think it was 8 shares and turning them into one. So they're doing this reverse split of General Electric, upping the price because they wanted to up the price so they could meet certain requirements and then give a dividend and blah blah blah. So I bought a whole bunch, and then the night that the merger or the reverse split went through, I looked on the Robinhood app just because it lays out a lot of stuff so much quicker than other things. And the price all of a sudden was $800 for the stock. And I was like, what? And so there was a giant glitch where rather than taking these 8 shares, combining them and making the one share worth $800, for some reason, it took all the shares, multiplied them by 8, and then it's made the average share all of a sudden worth $800. And so according to Robinhood, when the market opened that day, each share of General Electric was $800 and not the $100 it should have been. So people were like, oh my God, what's happening? And it was just a total glitch, but it looked very much like that. If you scrolled your mouse along, all of a sudden it would jump from, $6.50 to $800 or something. It was nuts. I think it's $12, so $12 to $800 as you scrolled your mouse along, and it didn't make any sense whatsoever. And then as the day went on, they fixed the glitch. But as far as why, there's no merging, there's no split of shares, there's no reverse split. So I don't know why on earth AMC was suddenly showing 436. It is really interesting that all the glitches that happen with AMC and GME point to much higher prices, and they never point to much lower prices, right? It's like, why all those glitches always appear to show things as being much higher than they really are and never much lower? Doesn't make any sense. Okay. Josh Dobbs. Hey, Houston, just curious if you put any thoughts on Stoicism as a philosophy. I've been reading Lives of the Stoics, and it seems that what most apes want is what Zeno's ilk wanted for. Yeah. I mean, the idea of Stoicism, like if you get to the root of it, is just kind of like not phased. That's the best way I can put it. You know, there's instances of like forced Stoicism. And by that, I mean, think like the pioneers that moved west, right, on the Oregon Trail. They pack the family up in a covered wagon, get some oxen, and you're going shooting for Oregon or California. And along the way, your kid dies, your wife dies, grandma dies, you lose a leg, someone dies of consumption, whatever. And they just kept plugging along. Like, can you imagine if you go on a road trip with your family, and on the road trip with your family, like 3 of you die, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to finish this road trip. That was the world that people dealt with prior to the modern age. Like, oh, I'm going to hop on this sailing ship and I'm going to leave Europe and I'm going to head to the Americas. And 10% of the people wouldn't get there. They would die of some weird disease while they're on the ship or fall overboard or whatever. And you're just expected to just accept that as totally normal. Like, there's like a forced stoicism that comes upon folks when they're faced with this like roller coaster of life, and you just have to be like, I'm not gonna let that faze me. So, we being on these meme stocks, and we watch the price rocket up and down and change, and buy the dip, hold. I'm not gonna let it faze me. And yeah, that's kind of how I see it. I can totally see your point. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. What we got? Apparently someone was angry that I was talking about space. Sorry, man. Nick Callis, if aliens visit us and reveal that their planet is pronounced cat poop, do we tell them our translation? Yes, and then we laugh. Because that's what we do as humans. In Poland, and we got my Polish listeners, you can verify this. There's a soft drink called fart cola. That's funny. Coca-Cola in Cantonese means bite the wet tadpole. The pinto in Brazilian Portuguese was slang for a small penis. So the Ford Pinto didn't sell very well. And then the Chevy Nova couldn't sell in Latin countries because Nova meant no go. So, we have all sorts of things that end up, oops, because the sounds of one word we make might mean something completely different in another language. And yeah, we tell them and we laugh. We all have a good laugh about cat poop, about planet cat poop. And then we go to war with each other because that's what humans do. Nil21981. Houston, I get my books in PDF from PDF Drive Google. It is the holy grail of ebooks. Oh, I've never done that before. I don't have an e-reader, so I've got my phone. But it's kind of annoying to have to read long things on the phone. What's it called? PDF Drive. PDF Drive books. That may be helpful for me. Maybe I need to get one of those e-readers so that I do like holding a book, though. Mike Millspaw, hello sir. If Sun Tzu, the Art of War, owned AMC shares, how would he deal with Citadel and other hedge funds in order to effect the short squeeze versus trashing Kenny G using drones and airplane banners? Well, right now, shining a giant light on Kenny G with what's been found in discovery in the lawsuit seems to be a great effect of just we're shaking him. And I wouldn't doubt if Citadel, out of anger, starts naked manufacturing more shares to drive prices down. Just be like, screw you, you stupid apes. How dare you challenge my authority, and drives it down. And I think Sun Tzu will just go, I'm going to buy the dip and I'm going to hold, buy and hold, buy and hold, buy and hold, buy and hold. Because for 9 months so far, that seems to work. They are still, all they've done is increase their liabilities and their obligations, and all the stock price has done is consecutively go up as the years gone by. Remember a year ago, AMC was a penny stock. A year ago, GameStop was finally like in double digits after spending so many years under $5. So they're winning, we're winning, they're losing, and that's that. I don't know what other tactics Sun Tzu would use, because Sun Tzu wasn't constrained by rules of war. He would probably do things that are much more heinous and violent than the confines we were constrained in with battling these hedge funds within the rules. So he would definitely start stabbing people, but we can't do that. We're not technically in a violent war. We're just in a battle of wills, as it were. Okay. Joe Potatoes, Charles Schwab, a good place to have my AMC and GME. I think Schwab also turned off the buy button at some point. I have a Schwab account. I use that for penny stocks that I can't get through Fidelity. Because if I like to play with really weird penny stocks, I can always get. Schwab does not care what you want to buy. If you try to buy them through Fidelity, Fidelity's like, yeah, for your own good, I'm not gonna let you purchase that because you're an idiot, and only dumb people try to buy that stock, and we're going to parent you. Where Schwab's like, yeah, bro, buy 600,000 shares of dumbass.com. I don't care. And they'll let me do it. Christopher Sawchuk, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons? It's daydreaming on steroids. I've watched people play Dungeons and Dragons, but I've never actually sat down and played a full night myself, because I've seldom have taken a full night to do anything. I dated a girl who's a dungeon master, and she like runs all these teen tournaments and things. And man, she has the coolest 20-sided die collection I have ever seen in my life. But no, I'm not. I didn't really play Magic or any of those things either. My attention span is like, okay, we're doing the game, and I'm gonna go read my book now. And so I would never last. Monkey Studios, do you think if aliens come here, but with good intentions, do you think they would be disgusted or fascinated by humans? Both. I think if there are advanced civilizations out there, they're probably terrified of us. We devote the most of our technological advancements into how to best slaughter each other. And my guess is that aliens that are leaving their home worlds have probably left behind the destruction of their own species, and they probably look at us and they're like, holy crap, these guys are willing to do this to each other. What on earth are they willing to do to us? And we shouldn't give them a reason to all of a sudden look outside their tiny little blue ball and come looking for us. So they might be like, yeah, look but don't touch. Leave them alone. They are angry monkeys with nuclear bombs, and they're dumb enough to use them on each other. And yeah, so I think they'll be fascinated. It'd be like watching it. I can imagine that there is an alien world out there, And as soon as the radio waves from the first television broadcast hit, they were watching on their screens and like, oh, what is crazy humans going to do next? Oh, man. Earth television is absolutely wild. So, yeah, I think we are a compelling creature, but also we are absolutely terrifying. When we put our mind to destroying things, we can destroy the hell out of things. Okay. Diana Ape Mama. Hi, Houston. Your stupid stalker hit me up. I had to mute him. Jeez. Yeah. Mute him, block him, report him. Please do. That guy is just relentless. I commented on Twitter this morning about a cute dog, right? And I commented it. Someone replied to me, and then my stalker, Houston Wade is a brazen liar. He's a 40-year-old loser who lives with roommates. And like, the person's like, what? Dude, it's a dog picture. What is your deal, man? Well, you don't realize who you're talking to. You're talking to a guy that's a brazen liar, and he lost a $5 million lawsuit. And, like, man, Rick, give it up. No one cares about what you have to think about anything. Rick Reinerson, unemployed, lives in a van, complains about me having roommates. Cool, man. Awesome. Oh, no. Someone worked in a restaurant. Oh, my God. What a scandal. Stalkers are annoying. Okay. Oh, man. People talk about the philosophy of money in the chat. Yes. Money's all in our minds, man. It's all belief system. Is Tinkerbell. We're clapping for Tinkerbell to get up and start flying again. That is money. It is an invented construct. It is complete make-believe, just like borders. Borders are imaginary. They only exist in our imaginations, and because we agree to our mass hallucination about them, they work. That's it. If all of a sudden the entire humanity was like, yeah, borders don't exist anymore, those are stupid, then borders go piff into the ether. And same thing with money. If all of a sudden we're like, yeah, money isn't real, it's just pieces of paper and pieces of metal, it means nothing, then poof, money disappears as well. That's kind of the nature of human collective thought and reasoning, is that we can condition ourselves into believing one thing and then believing that over and over and over and over and over and passing that information on, and then we just roll with it. Dennis Vutos. Bonjour, Houston. Check out SXOOF. Pelosi's son involved in the company battery recycling lithium gold blockchain. SXOOF. Let's look it up. Oops. Go there. You got, penny stock. SXOOF. It is where? 20 cents? What has it been doing for the year? I had a big spike end of February. A lot of OTC stocks went weird in February after the big boys went weird at the end of January. And then settled down quite a bit. So where was it at the peak? 85 cents. Yeah. And then settled around 20 cents range ever since. But just before that, it was worth 7 cents. So weird. So from the beginning of the year to January 1st, it went up over 10 times. Interesting. Eco mining. I think eco mining is going to be a wave of the future, that we're going to have to get rare earths and precious metals back out of things and recycle them at higher rates than we do. And we also need to just do a better job either recycling or incinerating everything, because we can't just keep passing garbage around and letting it wash into the ocean. And then all those microplastics fill up whale bellies and salmon and stuff. It's not good for anybody. If thing's trying to eat a bunch of brine and it's just swallowing microplastics, then all these whales are going to have bellies full but starving to death. And we're going to have food chain collapses all over the place. And yeah. So I hope they're doing good. I'll have to check them out and see what else is happening with them. I wonder what... Oof. They have a short interest report. A lot of TC stocks don't quite show up on short interest reports. Not seeing anything on there for short interest. Nuts. Okay. But thank you. Thank you for the look-see. I did not know about them. Maxine Meyer. Houston, are you still bullish on metamaterials? Jumped to $2,200 since the merger? Enjoy your channel. I am. I am still... I know they got to clear up all those Torchlight shares, and they have not done it yet. And I'm wondering if they come out and make an announcement on either the sale of their oil fields and what the cash dividend is going to be, or if they're going to roll those oil fields over into a new company, turn those preferred shares of stock, those preferred dividends, into shares in a new non-publicly traded company. I know folks that I think on 212 that they never got the preferred shares. I was talking with a gentleman today who said he contacted the brokers, was like, hey, where are my preferred shares? Like, oh, you're not going to get them, but if they give a cash, when they give a cash dividend, we'll give you the cash. Then he asked him, like, well, what if they don't give cash? What if they turn those shares, those preferred shares, into shares of stock in a new company that's not publicly traded? And they're like, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So at least foreign investors may be running into some weird issues on that. I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Metamaterial just signed $6 million in deals with the U.S. Treasury. So through their new acquisition of Nanotech Security. So they're starting to do these contracts that they're saying, hey, we're going to start doing business here, and they're ready. They're doing it. Okay. Scrolling for the questions. I can do... I'll see if my little sister, she got me back yet? Sorry. I was supposed to hang out with her at some point, so... not yet. I've not heard from her, so I can go for a little while longer. Ooh, got a super chat of 1111. Trey's Subway Cup. Just finished watching your interview with the kid from Wildcard. Awesome stuff. Kudos. Do you think us MOAS beneficiaries will be hated and villainized post-squeeze? Metamaterial GME, which doubles in price first? Yeah, right now GME's in that price point, which we've seen it hit before when it doubles. So, but Metamaterial's almost doubled already because it was at what, $3 not too long ago, sometime this summer. Let's look at year to date. So it hit $21. And then post merger it had dropped down to $2.95. So it's already more than doubled since August 19th. Whereas GameStop last hit 300 and change back at the beginning of June. So looks like Metamaterial already doubled first, but I still think they have a chance to get in the double digits range, and I want them to do it before the 15th so I can make some use of my calls. But I might totally miss the boat. I maybe should have sold them last week when the price spiked to $6 and the value of my calls all of a sudden had doubled. I should have been like, sell. But I'm a greedy son of a bitch, and I was like, no, I'm going to wait longer. And here I am. Yeah. But do I think MOAS beneficiaries will be hated? No. Because what happens in situations like this is that we take those people, those Cassandras that warned and warned and warned and warned and warned, and when they're proven right, we finally hold them up on a pedestal and go, the rest of humanity is so stupid. These guys are such geniuses. Why on earth did didn't we listen to them when we had the chance? We could have. We missed the boat on this one, and we did that after 2008. We took these folks who made the call correctly on mortgage-backed securities, and we didn't listen to them forever. That's why Michael Burry's Twitter handle is Cassandra. Is we after post collapse, we're like, these guys were so smart. Why didn't we listen to them? We're so stupid. And we're doing it all over again, where people are barking, hey, we're going to be a collapse. Hey, this thing's going to happen. Hey, MOAS. Hey. And everyone's like, idiots. No, this will go on forever. We'll never have to do that. And when it finally does change, they'll be like, oh my goodness. And they're going to take DFV and they're going to hoist him up onto a statue and go, oh, he's such a genius. Why don't we listen to him? And I think that's, yeah. I think that's going to happen. They may hate us now, but they're going to love us later. No Revolution 105. Well, to hell. Google Earth. Kenny's house. Where's Kenny's house? I have no idea where his house is. Someone got coordinates. Pop them in there. Have people posted coordinates and I just missed them already today? You guys normally like sending me weird places. I don't see any coordinates in there. Have I missed them? Not yet. Someone's got to give me coordinates. There's got to be some in here somewhere. I must have missed them. I must have scrolled right past them. Let's find somewhere to go with Google Earth. I always like going to weird places. And sometimes you guys just send me to like just some house. I'm like, cool. Or a retention pond. I don't see any coordinates. No. Weird. It cut off like the top of the chat. I don't see any. Can't go back in time anymore. I guess it wants me to keep plugging along here. Andrew M. Houston, what do you think about La Palma and the potential for mega tsunami if the landslide happens? Yeah, there's potential for it. It's not going to happen this time around. We can go to Google Earth and look at some La Palma, so let's do that. Boom. Google Earth. Turn off Chrome. Bring up Google Earth in here. Go across the Pacific. So, this one La Palma? That's Porto Novo. Where's La Palma? The Fogo Brava. That one? Oh, that's Santiago. La Palma. Pau Vista. Which one? Duh. Which one's La Palma? Rio Brava. That one is... So you can see this mountain right here had a big old blowout and a slide that went that way. So Santa Catarina de Fogo. Oops. No, I don't want to restart Google Earth. Don't give me that warning. Oh man, Google Earth might restart on me. Hopefully not. To La Palma. I can't figure out which one is La Palma. Am I looking at the Cape Verde? Oh, that's because I'm looking at Cape Verde Islands. Duh. Look at the wrong ones here. Dude, there's La Palma. Scroll across the ocean without looking. So you can see here, this mountain had a big old blowout and a slide at one point. And the one that's currently erupting is on the south side here. And it's this rift zone that split open and is erupting. And I thought it was erupting much lower down. Apparently it's erupting higher up, closer to the summit, and wiping out these areas here. So so if we zoom in, we can see this looks like pretty updated. What's the date on this one? Didn't I have a date on there? Oh, it's 85. No, it can't be 85. No, this is okay. It's got to be newer than that. So the lava flows are coming down and destroying all this stuff. It hasn't made it to the ocean yet, as far as I know. But yeah, so it's wiping out a bunch of things. So there's a cinder cone that opened up on this rift zone, and so what we saw is on the south east rift zone, a swarm of earthquakes happened as the rift split open and magma intruded and split open more. And then that's when the rift split finally. That's when you got the lava eruption. You got this curtain of fire that then coalesced into a cinder cone that just farted out, and the flow happened from there. If you were seeing something that was going to be a collapse of an entire flank, you would see 2 rift zones get weak. So if I have a better image of a mountain with rift zones, we're going to go all the way across the world to Hawaii, to the Big Island, and to Mauna Loa. So the shield volcanoes have what are called triple points, which is where you basically have 3 flanks that meet. And if you look down on them, it kind of looks a bit like a Mercedes symbol. So Mauna Loa here, you've got the southwest, the northeast, and the northwest rift zones. And usually there's 2 of them that are stronger than others, where I'd say stronger, but actually they're weaker. And they have more splits along the rift and more volcanic eruptions. So you can just see from the image, you got one recent flow here, it's within the last several hundred years, and you got a whole bunch on the north and south flanks here. And so these flanks are the ones that are more likely to split open, and thus that means this is the weaker face of the mountain. So the one that's more likely, if there's a big magmatic intrusion, that entire slope gives way and pushes into the mountain, than it would be for this side of the slope to give way, because this rift zone is much stronger, holding together much better than these 2. On Kilauea, so the caldera is up here, the top of the mountain. You've got a rift zone that kind of heads off this way, and a rift zone that heads off this way. Sorry, that heads this way. And then you've got a weak rift zone that goes to the north that no one really pays attention to because nothing's really erupted out of there in a long time. And the big gnarly one that happened recently was out here in Leilani Estates. Are you going to give me anything better than like 30-meter resolution, bud? No? You jerk. So I literally was teaching my intro to geology class, talking about triple point volcanoes and how along this rift zone, they built a whole bunch of homes in like the 1950s and 60s. They literally took gravel and bulldozers and filled in the rift zone, paved it over, and then built homes on top and sold them. And people bought them. Because like, I want to live in Hawaii. How luxurious. Not realizing they are on top of the most active rift zone of the most active volcano in the entire world. Insurance companies and banks were like, yeah, we're not going to give you a mortgage for that. We're not going to insure that. You are in a level 1 volcanic hazard, and your living room anytime can split open and turn into a pool of magma. Well, so 2018, I am teaching Intro to Geology. I do this lesson. I go home, and that night, Leilani Estates ripped open, and everything flooded with lava. People's homes are just gone. And so this huge lava flow burst through and just wiped out huge swaths of areas here. Oh, sorry, this is Leilani Estates. Sorry, Leilani Estates over here. I got the wrong part. It was this side. So the rift zone moves all the way along out to the coast. So where it split was way down rift, and Leilani Estates here is all the homes here just vanished because the rift went right through their homes, and this crazy lava flow that went out to the ocean, and it flowed super fast. We're talking like 60 miles an hour. This river of lava went pushing through here and pushed out into the ocean. And Pohiki, a little surf spot at Kapaho Bay, and then is this Pohiki here? Everything looks so different now. It just vanished. So it was a nice little surf spot, and then now it's all just volcanic detritus from the shelf that formed out here from the lava. But these flanks of the mountains, they can slip and fall. But if they're going to, it's not going to be, if Mauna Loa gets a whole bunch of rumbling out here on the southwest rift zone, it's not going to be that the mountain flank is moving. It's that this slope is opening up a little bit and the lava is going to burst out. But if you get a whole bunch of rumbling here and a whole bunch of rumbling there and a whole bunch of rumbling in the magma chamber, then you might get something that will push the entire flank down and wipe everything out with a big landslide. And with Isle de la Palma, all we had was one rift zone with the rumbles. And that happens all the time when you get these rift eruptions. On Molokai, if you look here, this is a big detritus field off of Molokai. And Molokai was once a big shield volcano, and half the volcano fell into the ocean. And we can actually find detritus that rolled under these super lubricated, I don't know how to describe the flows, but there's I can't remember what the term is, hydrology. But there's so much momentum behind it that it created this like vortex, and you can find pieces of Molokai that rolled under the ocean over 500 miles away. So that slide was incredible, and I bet it produced a 500-foot tidal wave that just smashed into Alaska and the Pacific Northwest and stuff when it went. That type of stuff we're looking out for. So if Isla de Palma in the future, maybe a few 100,000 years from now, if it has itself one of those cataclysmic collapses of its flank, then it would make a 500-foot tall wave that would smack into the eastern United States, no problem, and wipe out many Caribbean islands. It would be pretty gnarly. Pretty much every city along the eastern seaboard would just disappear from that type of action. Okay. All right. Let's go back to Big Houston and let me actually pay attention to the chats again. How's my card? How's Dennis? RJ Lowe. Advice on anxiety because sometimes it gets bad in a day. Oh, man. I'm a terrible person to ask about that. I'm not particularly anxious. Never really have been. What's the quote? Depression is thinking about the past and anxiety is worrying about the future. So, I don't know. I've never really worried about the future because shit happens, man. And you just got to roll with it. That's the best advice I can come up with is that we can't control the future. We can make goals and try our best to work towards that goal. But life can just come along and just smack it out of the way. And there's not much you can do about it if that's the case. You just kind of got to pick yourself back up, roll with it, and try pushing towards a new goal. Like my general plans out of high school was I'm going to go to the University of California, San Diego. I'm going to become an industrial engineer and play baseball. And a week before classes were supposed to start, I got hit by a car and woke up in the hospital. Lost a baseball scholarship. My bell got rung really hard and found myself back living in the Pacific Northwest going, what am I going to do with my life? Well, I missed the quarter, so I'm going to do computer work. I'm going to ride this .com bubble and become a .com millionaire while I have a chance. So I started doing computer networking for Rivals.com. And then all of a sudden show up to work one day and there's a padlock on the door and Rivals.com didn't exist anymore. And like, oh, what am I going to do now? Well, I'll go back to school. So I'm back to school, played some baseball, went to Europe on a professional baseball scholarship and made it partway through the season and my elbow exploded. Well, no one knows how to work on elbows in Europe. They have to go to the United States. So back to the U.S. I go. And by this point, I got more interested in physics than I was in engineering. And then I got more interested in astronomy than I was in physics. So played some more baseball with my repaired arm and moved to Hawaii. Get to Hawaii and all of a sudden they don't want me to play baseball. They cut me without ever let me throw a pitch after I'd played at other schools. It was, life just throws wrenches in your gears and you just have to roll with it because that's what life's all about. I think I talked about this. My intro to math classes is I have everyone tell me what's your name, where you're from, what's your major, and what's your favorite scar. And everyone goes around, they tell a scar story. And there's always a couple of people that should be dead. Like really, like you should not be alive. Why are you... Today I had a guy tell me about, he was working an aircraft carrier. He was doing some work under the engine of the aircraft carrier and the chief on deck was telling the pilot to like rev the engine for some test and just like lit this guy on fire with a jet engine. And he's alive and he's in my class taking math. And so we go through like shit happens to people and that's kind of where the stoicism comes in. Like you just kind of go, well, back to the drawing board. What else can I do with this life? And go from there. So my I guess my advice for anxiety is, hope for the best. And if the worst happens, go, man, try again. Because not everything's going to go your way. And you have to learn how to kind of go, let the water run off your back like a duck. Dave Barney. It's your PSC Island first responder. Love your show, brother. My mom has MS. Thank you for the fundraiser coming up. You rock. Keep the lights on for you. Thank you, David. So next month is going to be the National MS Society is going to be our fundraiser. So we're going to be doing that one. Okay. Did I miss any super chats in there? There's David's. There is... Oh. Blue Hefner. Is BBIG giving crypto dividend? How high could it squeeze to after the crypto div is released? Well, BBIG is like over 200% shorted right now. So that means they've actually borrowed over 200% the float to short, which is what the ballsy stuff they were doing with GME before it squeezed to $480. So with this crypto dividend and the amount of that short interest, BBIG can do some weird stuff with that. So we're looking, uncharted territory with that much short and crypto dividend being offered. We might see triple digits out of it, kind of like Overstock. Overstock was that slow burn after they released their crypto dividend and went to $100 and whatever as a result. So I jumped in and I got some just in case. Ooh, No Revolution gave me coordinates. Excellent. Here we go. Scene. Control V and go. What? Can't understand this location. Ah, dang it. Oh, that's why. Okay, let's see if I can do that. And do that. Does that work? There we go. Haha. Doesn't like the D's. So we're going to, where we go? Somalia? Ethiopia? Where am I? I just noticed we hit Africa. And it's not giving me, all right, I may have to actually restart this sucker. One sec. Copy. We're going to close you. And we're going to restart you and go back. Come on. Do it. Restart. Reload. Do it. Go. Go faster. Go faster. Go faster. I'm going to turn off the calculator so you just have a black void to look at. Are you going to open? Open. Google Earth, you son of a... Go. Open. There we go. All right. So hopefully it updated its thing and will now go. Oh, sorry. I've got a roommate playing music in the other room. One sec. There's some pixels. There's pixels. What am I looking at here? Is that an oasis? Is that what desert am I in? I am in I'm in Yemen. Okay, so I'm in Yemen. I thought I was in Africa. So I'm in Yemen. There is something out here in the middle of the desert. It is that an oasis? What is that? Can I get to the surface? Is it just an inky black pool? What am I looking at out here in Yemen? What is this place, No Revolution? I have no idea. I don't know what I'm looking at. Is it the void? Am I staring into the void? Is it staring back at me? What is it? What is that place? I don't know what that is. I don't see any similar ponds or whatever that could be. I have no, I don't know what I'm looking at, man. Is it, are you trying to figure out if I can figure it out for you? See, there's other dark spots, but they look like patches of rock. That looks like a pond or something. Not a clue. I don't know. I don't know. One of the top places I want to go to is Socotra. This place right here. This place has got some really weird endemic plants and cool little streams, and yeah. And they're removed from the war, except if you want to get a flight, it's like, yeah, flights just leave whenever they want. They don't really have any rules for that. Well, there's David Barney's. Got that one. Seth Ide. Is HMNY related to BBig? Schwab won't let me buy any more shares of HMNY. Been super interesting stonk lately. You're a true gentleman, sir. Thank you. HMNY. Let's put Chrome back up. Let's take Google Earth off. We'll go there. We'll go HMNY. Helios Matheson Analytics. Oh, it's definitely way down the penny stocks. I wonder if it went on the expert market. Whoa, there's some weird spikes. So year total to date, made up to 1 cent, but it's been trading for fractions of a cent ever since. And made it all the way up to 0.009. So those are really weird spikes. My guess is they won't let you buy anymore because it's probably on that expert market and it turned off your ability to buy. Huh. Yeah, I don't know enough about it. I have to dig deep, but it must be because it's got this article here talking about MoviePass's former chairman is now heading to TikTok rival Vinco, BBig. So, yeah, must be something going on. What's Yahoo say? Tell me. And, well, shares are moving. I have no idea what it means. I cannot analyze any further for you beyond that because I don't know anything about them. But they must be tied to BBig somehow because that's the first thing that pops up. All right. Okay. Oh, did someone talk about text messages? No one sent me a text. Okay. We are good. No Revolution 105. It's a sinkhole. Oh, that's why it looks so dark. It's a sinkhole. Interesting. Okay. Oh, got another one from Trey's Subway Cup. Pop quiz. 150,000 to gamble with, but you must spend it Monday and can only use MedMaterial, GME, or AMC. How do you split between with them? Can't wait to hear your take on this. How long of the play are we looking at? We're looking at trying to get the best we can for that week, that month, that year. If we're looking at year, just dump it all on GME. If you're looking at play for maybe a month, I would just split them between the three of them. I think they're all going to climb this month, but maybe not necessarily MOAS climb unless the debt ceiling standoff gets dangerous, and we end up defaulting some in the next 2.5 weeks. What day is the 18th? The 15th of Friday, right? So the 18th of Monday? Yes, the 18th of Monday. So that's the day that we would be potentially defaulting at current progression of the use of funds and what's trickling in. So we've got 1, 7, 14, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, 17 days. 17 days, 16 and a half days until we potentially default as U.S. government. If that's the case, then I think you, all right, you make me waffle all over the place. Just dump it in GME. Save yourself a headache. It's GME's price is suppressed right now. It bounced off like 169 earlier, so it's pretty depressed. Oh, we got coordinates from Biden's ramblings. So I'm gonna have to do another Google Earth here. Boink. Boink. And where are we going? Where are we going? We are going into Africa. We're going somewhere south. We're going to this spot. And it is some mountain. It is some bushes on a mountain. Oh, send me off into the middle of nowhere again. There's nothing there. There's nothing interesting there. What's supposed to be there? Is it this round mountain itself? This guy right here? This is definitely a cryptovolcano complex. This is probably a collapsed volcano. This whole round thing. Is that what we're talking about? I think there's another one similar up in Namibia. I was planning to do a trip to Namibia, and I was mapping it out. This is like 4 or 5 years ago, and everything fell through, so I didn't get to go. I can't remember exactly where it was, but there was a big cryptovolcanic structure like that. Is it this guy? Might be this guy. Does it show me a picture? No, it does not show me a picture. Might have been that guy, but that one looks smaller than the one I remember. I cannot remember. But Pretoria, yeah, this must be this round, perfectly round thing you're seeing here. Pionsberg National Park. Sun City. Don't you have like a Wikipedia article about what this national park's all about? Or are you just going to do Sun City? That's pretty cool. Oh, you can't see this. Sun City, luxury resort casino, Northwest Province. All right, so that's not going to be telling me anything helpful. Man, tell me about... Sorry, let me go back to Google Earth. I want to know about Pionsberg National Park. Pionsberg National Park. Pionsberg National Park. Pionsberg. There we go. That's what I want. I want to go there. I want to turn you off temporarily. And I want to go to... Just give me the Wikipedia on it. There we go. It's a game reserve. No, I want national park, not game reserve. Well, does it have geology, flora, mammals, history, 70s, 80s? That's not telling me geology of this area. How about you? Do you have geology for me? Go faster. Park info. No geology. Maybe if I type geology in there. I can't spell geology. There we go. Structure term, Pionsberg National Alkaline Ring Complex was formed by volcanic eruptions. Yeah. So it's a cryptovolcanic structure, from about 1 billion years old. So it's the collapsed structure of an ancient volcano system. So it's very similar to the others we've seen like that. So if we go back to Google Earth, we go to the Richat structure. So remember that roundness right there, and it's a ring structure. And we head up to Mauritania, and we go to the Richat structure. This guy here, same type of thing, except this is much more desert, so it's been sandblasted a lot more. And if we head out to Big Bend National Park in Texas, we got Big Bend National Park, which is out here, and I get myself more north here. It bothers me that I'm not more north. And we go here. We have the same type of thing. It's a collapsed volcanic structure out here in Big Bend, it's an ancient volcano. So same type of thing. And I think there was even one across the border in Mexico. Was that it? Might be one right there as well. So we get those from time to time across the earth. They're cool stuff. Cool stuff indeed. Okay. Did I miss anything? There's Seth Idol. There's Pop Quiz. Trade sample clip. 6 to 12 month play. Can roll profits if a large gain from one to the other. Okay. Then probably just dump it in GME and forget about it. Let the MOAS happen and then walk away. That's probably the easiest thing. Otherwise, you're going to be like stressing out. Like, wow, it's enough today to sell and move out. If I had that much money, I'd probably just dump it in GME and just forget about it. Because that would get you, get you 1,000 shares of GME or close to it. And that's a lot. That is a lot of shares of GME. I do wish I had bought into. I wish I'd known about this whole squeeze play May of last year, and just, took $8,000 and just bought it, $2.57, and gone from there. And I would just be like having palm fronds waved at me by now. Missed opportunities. Life is a lot of missed opportunities. You go, I wonder what that's all about. Miss that opportunity. Every once in a while someone gets that opportunity and you just have to pat them on the back. Wooden Puppet. Wooden Puppet's got Google Earth stuff for me. Couldn't understand. Oh, that's because all right, we're in Vermont. We are at a mine. Where are we? It says pick mine. That is definitely entrails of a mine left on the open. There's a open pit. Or do you know what they're mining here? Because I have no idea. They moved a lot of material though. Wonder what it was. They're mining. They're pick mine. Can you enlighten us as to what they were mining up here in Vermont? Because I have not a clue. It's a pretty decent sized mine for the Northeast. There aren't too many big mines like that in the Northeast. They really appreciate their forests. And, yeah, they don't let you. Christopher Sawcheck. I bought 350. Just kept going. And Wooden Puppet has also got one asbestos mountain. Oh, it's an asbestos mine. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, big asbestos mine. The biggest one I know of is in Quebec, in Asbestos, Quebec. And let me see if I can do asbestos, Quebec, Canada. So just a little bit north. There's a huge mine here this town is built on. So this is an asbestos mine, and that's the town. But I don't think they're actively mining asbestos out of here anymore because no one really mines asbestos. But they're finding, they made a strike of demantoid garnets, beautiful demantoid garnets. So it's the third location on Earth where demantoids have been found. The first place was in the Ural Mountains of Russia. The second place was in Madagascar, and the third place is here at the bottom of this asbestos mine. And the demantoid garnets that come out of there are gorgeous, and they sell for $50,000 a carat. So I wonder if they dug deep enough into this carnage of the asbestos mine in Vermont that, where was it? Here? That they would find the same demantoid garnets, because those things could make digging through this crap worthwhile again. I don't know. Asbestos is really gnarly. Asbestos, the way asbestos forms is it makes these, I don't know what to call them, spicules maybe, of very thin needle-like material, and they roll. And they roll up into these tiny fine fibers. They even do it on the microscopic level. So when you breathe it in as dust particles, it just like little barbs that hook into your bronchi, and eventually they just fill up your lungs, scarring your tissue, and that's where you get mesothelioma, or the consumption disease from the dust of these things. That's why asbestos is so bad for you. And it's been shut down, I can imagine. Oh, now everyone's giving me coordinates for all over the place. Awesome, I love it. So we got some negatives here from Micah Kaz. It's going to be somewhere in the southern U.S., I believe, with those coordinates. Could not understand. Maybe you couldn't understand. Oh no, it'd be south. It's a negative. So if I do that, and I do an N, and if I do, oops, sorry, not an N, a west, and I do that, and I do a south. Will that get me there? Sorry, Micah Cats. It's not liking those coordinates. You may have to find a different way of copying and pasting them because it won't let me do it. Ham, is Wade invested in GME or AMC? Does anyone know? I'm invested in both. I've got both. I've got more dollars sunk into GME, though, overall. Okay, Ian says he's rock hounded there. Grossular, lapidary grade, grossular garnets, serpentine, serpentine or serpentinite. Serpentinite's like the soapstone. Serpentine that's asbestos. That's stuff that handle with care, man. Handle with care. Yeah, but cool stuff. Cool stuff indeed. Okay, Nathan's got one for me. Let's see where let's go. Let's go where Nathan's got. Flying. We're flying. We're going the Midwest, going the Southwest. Going Southwest. Schwunk. Oh, yeah, airplane graveyard. Mojave. This is the Mojave graveyard, isn't it? So these are all the jets put out of service. Pretty cool to look at. These are what these B-52s that I'm looking at. And then we got old fighter jets. Yeah, desert's nice and dry, so they put them out here either for spare parts and take them apart, or they can mothball them for a while, and if for some reason we get invaded, we can start using Cold War technology against people, I guess. But look at these things. Look how big these suckers are to these suckers. Absolutely crazy. Looks like maybe F4s. I can't even tell what all that is. Maybe those are old runway tugs. And then here's jets being dismantled, like totally taken apart. That's crazy. That stuff's cool. Stuff is so cool. Then we got vehicles that are also abandoned out here in the same way, maybe? No, these are containers. Yeah. That stuff's awesome. Where's this one? Sol, Drexel. This is near Tucson. So this isn't the Mojave one. This is out in Arizona. That stuff's cool. David Barney. Hey, Houston. Can you explain to me the difference between GME and AMC as far as them on when they squeeze? Amount. Why one is better than the other? Holding 2,600 AMC. Thank you, sir. If you're holding 2,600 AMC, you're going to be millionaire just fine. The way I see it is the float for AMC is 500 million shares and the float for GME is 50 million shares. So if they've been shorted at the same ratio, then just based upon the amount of float available, GME should be worth 10 times what AMC is available. AMC would sell for during the MOAS. And that's the only way I look at it. That's it. It's the fact that the float is so small and there's a huge institutional investment in GME. So it's a lot more shares are locked up that can't move as well as it can with AMC, where 85% of the shares, available shares, are owned by the public. So that's the basis of it right there, is that I value GME as being worth 10 times what AMC is in the end because there's 1/10 the float. There. Avert says they call it the boneyard. That makes sense. Yeah. Mickle's got one for me too. This is 58 degrees. That's going to be the East Coast. Oh, no. Sorry, other side. 58 degrees. Oh, east. Sorry. Way out there. It's blue. Oh, is this the fire? The pit of hell, or whatever they call it? Door to hell. Yeah. So this was a natural gas explosion, and it's been burning for 40 years, something like that. Karakum Desert. Black sand. It's not giving me the full article on the door to hell. Why do you tell me the door? Oh, there it is. Gas crater, also known as the door to hell. Let's click on that sucker. I think there was like a drilling operation and then it exploded. One of the more popular theories is Soviet geologists intentionally set on fire in 1971 to prevent the spread of methane gas, and it's thought to have been burning continuously ever since. Oh, so it wasn't necessarily an accident. Maybe it was done on purpose. So, almost for 50 years, the sucker's been burning. Yeah. There it is at night. The door to hell. That's awesome. That's heavy metal, man. I want to go there and see that. That's a good spot. That's a good coordinate right there. All right. Make myself look big. Hey Houston, do you know why amber is so prevalent in the Baltic Sea? Well, in the Baltic regions in general. All right, back to the Google Earth. So, another young lady I dated, her stepfather was Polish, and his family owned, I can't remember exactly where in Poland it was, owned an amber mine during the communist era. And they actually had cars that were built similarly to American stock cars. So American stock car racing came from bootleggers that were trying to outrun the police. So they would make their cars look normal, swoop up the insides so they could outrun the police and go as fast as they can. Well, my ex-girlfriend's stepdad's family, they wanted to smuggle amber out of the country and get cash back in. So they would do these runs from the family home where their mine was in these cars with super loaded suspensions, and they would fill like the tubular structure of the chassis full of just millions of dollars in amber, and they would load the sucker up and they would race out of Poland, try to get to the border of Czechoslovakia, where they would swap it with a black market dealer who would give them cash, and then that black market dealer would go to the border of Austria and sell it into the West there. And so, yeah, and then they would race the cash back and hopefully outrun the police, and they get back to their family farm where the mine was. Why there's so much amber, I think, has to do with at one time there was huge tropical forests here, and tropical forests produced all sorts of natural resin, and then got fossilized there. I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the story behind that. But man, they had some cool amber. They had amber bead necklaces where the amber beads were like this big, so they're just like these giant things. And they had all sorts of bugs and spiders and stuff trapped inside the amber. He like pulled out a shoebox, and inside the shoebox was probably $1 million in amber. It was absolutely nuts. That's, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. David Barney asks, super chat, should I convert some of my AMC to GME? Thoughts? Thanks. Well, I mean, this is assuming that I'm right in my thinking, and that since GME is 1/10 the float, it should squeeze 10 times as high as AMC. Now, if that's the case, currently the price of GME isn't 10 times the price of AMC. So GME might be the deal at the moment as a result. And that's why I'm more heavily loaded in GME than I'm in AMC, simply because like they're both going to squeeze for a lot, but I think single shares of GME can be so ridiculous that you can retire off one of them during the MOAS. And that's why I'm a little more heavily leaned into GME. I think it's good to have both, just so that you cover your bases and are diversified with your negative beta stocks. It's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just speaking from my own personal investment I've done in this. But yeah, that's what I've done. Is that I'm a little more weighted in GME because I think it's going to pop a little more than AMC will, and so I'm leaning that way. If I can pick up, that many shares, I should be good to go. But you've got a boatload of AMC, way more than I do. I can't afford that much. So you've got so much more than I do of AMC. I think no matter what, you're going to be able to retire during the MOAS. Do I think AMC can trigger margin calls at 100 to 200 shares to subvert the herd? Oh, heck yeah. If we go back to calculator, turn off Google Earth, open up calculator. We've got 500 million shares known, right? They know of 500 million shares of AMC that are legit. So we got 500 million, right? And we want to multiply that sucker by $200. Whoops, too many. We are at a market cap for AMC of $100 billion. This alone should worry every single solitary group that has lent margin to a hedge fund. AMC only does like $1 billion a year in ticket sales. There's absolutely no reason they should be valued at 100 times what their yearly sales are. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. You don't get companies doing that unless they've got massive speculation for growth because there's some sort of weird .com or something. That is just the market cap of the shares that should exist. Now, if they're shorted to 18 billion shares or whatever it is that they're estimating from the registration they had prior to their vote, so let's say it's 18 billion shares, which is a lot. I mean, this is definitely high end. 18 billion shares times a value of $200 puts AMC's true market cap, if you count all the shares that are being traded and claimed to be owned, at $3.6 trillion, essentially making them the largest company in the entire world. That would trigger that's $3.6 trillion of liability, basically. So, AMC getting into triple digits should absolutely scare the piss out of anyone who has lent to these hedge funds on margin, and because no one has that kind of cash, no one has that money. There's not that much liquidity in existence at any of these banks to deal with that stuff. Even the fact that they're requiring banks to have have $1 trillion in capital, that capital is not liquid. It's probably in bonds and savings accounts and investments and mortgages for things. And so that money is not just $1 trillion in cash sitting in a bank account. No, that money is invested in other ways. So yeah. Travis Wilson, 240 AMC, is that enough to retire during MOAS? Well, oh man, I didn't turn on you didn't see I'm an idiot. I had Chrome on. Turn off Chrome. There's my calculator. I did the whole thing and didn't show you the calculator. I'm sorry. Stupid Houston. Not showing you the calculator. So you're asking 240 AMC enough to retire during MOAS? I mean, if it goes the way we think it do, why not? So 240 shares, right? And if we think it can easily get to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, if it gets $10,000, right, you're looking at 2.4 million. 2.4 million invested into Vanguard funds, 8% a year, will net you $192,000 a year in passive income. Is that enough to retire on? It's enough for me to retire on, that's for sure. I could go for $192,000 a year in passive income. I wouldn't hurt me at all. If we're looking at 240 shares at $100,000 a share, right? If that's the why don't you multiply times 240? I think I did clear. You're looking at 24 million. 24 million invested in Vanguard for passive income. It's $1.92 million a year. So if you can get that kind of cash for it, awesome. Even if it sells for only $1,000 a share, looking at $240,000, right? Well, if you're an active investor, you can turn that $240,000 into $1 million in no time. Especially with the way we've been hunting these overshorted stocks. You know, people have gotten very, very, very wise and very knowledgeable in investing in the last year. And we've turned investments 700%, 1000%, all since January, based on what we're learning from each other in Superstock and on Wall Street Bets and on Twitter. And, you know, if you can do 700% on $240,000, right? So that's multiplying by 7. You just got yourself to $1.6 million and passive income with dividend stocks and Vanguard. It's $134,000 a year. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You should be able to retire off that. Why not? So, yeah, I think it's very doable. Very, very doable. Okay. I don't have too much voice left. My my throat is starting to feel pains here, so I might only go a few more questions and have to leave for the evening. I might pop on, maybe not tonight, maybe tomorrow night. I'll do a Twitch stream and play a game of some kind. So, sorry, my throat is starting to get real scratchy. Travis Wilson, thank you for super chats there. My pleasure. Am I familiar with Centralia, Pennsylvania? I'd love to see it. I've never been to Centralia, Pennsylvania. PA. Oops. Let's turn on. Oops. Scene. Go to Google Earth. We're flying. It's definitely in the Appalachia there. That's a tiny little town. It's a very tiny town. That's a itty bitty little town. I am not familiar with Centralia, Pennsylvania. We're in the folds of, so just a little bit west of the Poconos. So my family's from Lehigh Valley, and so my mom was born in Bethlehem, but she grew up on the other side in Warren County in a little town called Belvedere, which somewhere along the river here. It's Easton, Harmony, Belvedere up here. So she grew up in Belvedere, and so that's not too much further west from there. But I've never actually been that way into the Appalachians in Pennsylvania. So yeah, I've taken I-80 across and missed it. So I've been just north of you through there. And then there's a road cut off I-80. Where was it that I got all my... I have a whole bunch of fern fossils I got out of a road cut. There's all this slate, and I just started pulling out, and it was just fern fossils. So I have like probably tens of thousands of dollars in fern fossils that I want to turn into a really cool epoxy table someday. I just haven't got around to doing it. It'll weigh a ton when I'm done. But somewhere, I can't remember exactly where it was. It's like 15 years ago. I pulled those out. But yeah. I need to go there somewhere. I'm not familiar with Centralia. Make a trip through there someday. Oh, did I miss a question there, Ian? About someone answered a question for you, and I totally missed it in the chat. Sorry. David Barney. Okay, I have to ask my brother. AMC hits 10,000. Where does the money come from, and will we really get paid? All right. So if we're looking at even momentarily, trillions of dollars have to get paid out for these shares to close positions. It's not going to come from the hedge funds. The hedge funds are going to get liquidated, and they're going to cover like 1/100th of it, maybe even less. And it's going to fall on the banks, and the banks are going to get drained of everything they have. There'll be a credit crunch like nobody's ever seen, and liabilities are absolutely insane. Even insurances, they'll have to pay out. It'll be one of those instances like where AIG all of a sudden was responsible for hundreds of billions of dollars in insurance payouts. They didn't have cash on hand, so they had to get bailed out by the government. The banks got drained, so the banks had to get bailed out by the government. We're talking about the amount of wealth that is absolutely stupid and has never been approached before, has to get transferred all at once. And it's going to have to be done in coordination with the federal government and the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. And basically, they're going to print dollars and reserve notes, fill the banks with that money. The bank then just turns around and sends that money to us to close those positions. And they'll just keep doing that until the positions are closed. And then the banks will get an ultimate bailout, something they can rely on. We'll try to drop interest rates lower if we can, which there's not much room to drop them lower because we dropped them already for COVID and kept them low throughout. So the money's going to have to get made up, and that's just where it's going to come from. And a lot of hedge funds are going to get liquidated, and the liquidation process is going to depress stocks across the board. So a lot of folks that had a lot of money before won't. The people who are members of these hedge funds, clients of these hedge funds, they're going to have nothing. I mean, we're talking, Chet Chesterfield III, and he's 10th generation waspy American from Greenwich, Connecticut. And he inherited the wealth of his family, and he just gave it to a hedge fund and goes, forget about it, whatever. He's going to be obliterated. He's not going to have a single dime left to his name. His house is going to go up for auction, and he's going to be misspelling your name at Starbucks because he's got no skills whatsoever and has never worked a day in his life. And he's going to discover what it's like to be absolutely penniless and to lose that family wealth because you trusted someone like Gabe Plotkin, and he lost it all on a whole bunch of bad bets by overshorting all these stocks. So there's going to be a significant transfer of wealth, and a whole bunch of wealth just created a thin air because they have to print all this stuff and to pay us, because we're going to sit and we're going to refuse to do anything until they pay us a boatload. And we're going to be on the receiving end of that transfer of wealth, and it's going to be like something out of a movie script no one thought possible. If you had to write this movie script and present it to Hollywood, they'd be like, no, that's not going to happen. Oh, Centralia is where that constant coal fire is. Sorry, just saw that pop up. That's why it seemed familiar. Hi, dog. Monkey Butt is like, leave this. I want to go outside. Hi, buddy. Yes, you see your little nose. There's your little nose popping up. There it is, his little nose. So I'm going to have to leave here a sec and get Monkey Butt her treats. But yeah, the money's going to come from, because we're just going to make it up. That's basically where it's going to come from. We're going to write those checks for ourselves. Yes. Yeah. So Centralia here, if I go back in, this is the place. So how long's the fire been burning? Like 50 years, 60 years? There's some fire in a coal mine, and the entire earth around the town has been on fire for decades. So the earth is actually like hot to the touch. And I don't know, does anyone even live in Centralia anymore? They take all the houses down? Looks like there's one building there. There's a couple of buildings there, but everything else is gone now. So the ground was too hot for anyone to trust. Yeah, that's why that place was familiar. It's the coal mine that has been on fire forever. Yeah, 50 years. Yeah, that's why it was familiar. I should have taken a detour just to go there and feel the hot pavement. Yeah. So, all right. Monkey Butt really wants me to leave this room. Sorry, but get up here, buddy. Get up here, and we'll do it in a sec. Gotta say goodbye to everyone. Come on. Get up on your little thingy. Get up there. No? Are you out of spite? Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. This was an excellent evening. I've talked my voice hoarse. And, yeah, that's all I got in me. I'm exhausted. Look for me maybe on Twitch tomorrow night if I've got the energy. If not, I'll see you Monday, and I'll try to be answering your questions on Twitter if I am looking at the thing. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your night, and to leave you with this. Bye-bye. Have a good one.